Yeah, I try using that phone.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for attending our second Passengers United Queens Bus Network Redesign meeting. Before we begin, here are a few housekeeping items. First, you should be automatically muted. Please remain muted until it is your time to speak. If you have not registered to speak yet and you want to speak, please remember you must register at this link that is on the screen right now and is also in the chat, bit.ly/QBNR Speak 2. If you were at our previous meeting, it is different than the one that was used at our last meeting. Once again, it is bit.ly/QBNR Speak 2. Once again, like our previous meeting, all registered speakers will be having 2 minutes to make their remarks. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. We are also live on YouTube as well. And without further ado, please now welcome our Long Island Region Vice President of Passengers United, Matt Camper.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome again, as Jack said, to our second Queens Bus Redesign Network meeting tonight. The first meeting we had about 2 weeks ago now. Actually, no. Basically about 3.5 weeks ago, let's say now. We really got a lot of input from the community, especially those in College Point, Queens, those virtually as well. And, just like that meeting a few weeks ago now, the same thing here tonight, as I said back then. I'm looking forward to hearing all of your input again. Those who may have spoken last time, forward to hearing more of what you have to say. If you have not attended one of these meetings before and have input, also looking forward to all of the comments that we are all going to hear tonight, whether it's from community members, whether it's from local representatives throughout Queens. The input is very important. As I have said personally on my Twitter page over the last couple of days, even on Facebook yesterday, you don't speak now, forever hold your peace, because it is very important that we get the message to the MTA in general that this redesign, although again, my personal opinion is it's better than what it was originally, there is still work that needs to be done. You've heard from people who have spoken at the MTA committee meeting this week, the board meeting yesterday. There is work that has to be done with this Queens Bus redesign still. And there is still time to get your input to the MTA. There is still time to make sure the MTA knows that there needs to be more input. There needs to be, more importantly, changes made. And hopefully the MTA will hear this loud and clear that there needs to be changes that will be made. And this is one of those ways that you can get the input. Thank you all so much in advance for taking time out of your evening to join us. And thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Also, the chat is open. If you have spoken or not registered yet, please do register. I implore you if you want to speak. But also, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And I'm just seeing another question. How does one sign up to speak? Very good question. It is on the screen, the link that is posted, bit.ly/QBNR Speak 2. I will be repeating that link over and over again as we go on with the meeting. So if you just click on that link, and it's a short online form. So that's how you sign up to speak. Up next, please welcome the president of Passengers United, Charlton D'Souza.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Loud
Yes,
and
we
clear.
can, Charlton.
Okay, great. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you for making time out of your busy summer, June, the last day of June to come out. A couple of things. I wanted to thank Jack Nyberg. I wanted to thank Matt Camper. And I wanted to thank the entire team at Passengers United, Yuki Endo, just everyone that's helped us, Andy Pollock, Vittorio Bugatti from the Express Bus Advocacy Group for bringing his members to this meeting. So tonight we're going to be discussing a lot of the important issues regarding the Queen's Bus redesign, and we are going to have some presenters coming on, and those presenters will be answering your questions about ADA accessibility issues at the bus stops and so forth. So that is very critical. We also need that to be, looked into, because many of you had questions about that. And so far we have about 25 participants in here. The MT has a representative as well attending this meeting. We also have James from the New York City Comptroller's Office here. And we also have, what's his name? Stephen Raga, who's the first Filipino assemblyman elected. I want to welcome him as well. We have Vittorio Bugatti, Myra M., Maxine Launder, Patricia. We also have Kevin, and he's also from Council Member Schulman's office. Kevin McLear, thank you for coming. Jennifer Sharon, who's here. So we have a lot of reps. We have Eric from the College Point Civic Association. We have Elizabeth from the College Point Civic. We have Carmen, Karina. We also have Anita Whelan. I think she's from the MTA. And we have a bunch of people here. So thank you guys for joining tonight. We're very honored to have you. We just want to get right into the meeting, and that's what we're going to do right now. So our next speaker will be Vittorio, who'll just make a brief introduction. And then we're going to go to my colleague from the New York City Transit Riders Committee meeting, Christopher D. Greif. All right, so let's take it away.
Thank you. Please now welcome Vittorio Bugatti.
Yes, good evening, everybody. As Carlton said, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I'm going to keep my comments brief. I know in the previous meetings I've talked about the major concerns regarding express bus service, and I will say that as it stands right now, the concerns, generally speaking, are not so much with the routes as it is with the frequency of service. You will see that on most of the lines, the spans of service will be kept as is today. But what they're really focusing on is cutting rush hour frequency and, more importantly, off-peak and weekend service. That is where you're going to be waiting a lot longer. And there is a lot of service that they are proposing to cut. So that is something that you need to look at. If you, whatever your express bus line is, whatever part of Queens that it is, you need to make sure that they're not proposing to eliminate it. They're proposing to eliminate the QM3 entirely, for example, and they are looking to cut major chunks of service from the QM4. There would be no weekend service at all on that line. The weekday service would be cut significantly, and the same is true of the QM20. Service during the week would end at 10 a.m. going to Manhattan, and it would not start going back to Queens until 4 p.m. That is a major service cut. And so that is what we're looking at across all of the express bus lines. They would all see some sort of reduction in service, just about every single line. So that is really what people are concerned about, whether you travel off-peak for doctor's appointments or you are now working at a different time and you need to go in at a different time later on in the afternoon. These are the things that we need to look at. And I also wanted to say that with regards to outreach and things like bus shelters and bus stops, in terms of visibility of the bus stops. Queens has a lot of the old bus stop signage, and that is something that I mentioned at a previous Zoom MTA meeting. Supposedly, the MTA noted that bus shelters, the contract is supposed to be up for renewal. And the last that I checked with the MTA about getting more things like bus shelters, they said that there was a cap on them. And I think that we definitely need to push for more bus shelters for riders. We want to have bus stops that are more visible, because Queens has, I think, probably the most bus service out of all of the boroughs, just because of how big it is and how many areas do not have subway service at all. So those are the things that I wanted to sort of touch upon. And I wanted to close by saying that we have also, I have had discussions with the MTA about in-person meetings, because I know that was something a lot of people had issues with. They have confirmed that they will be having more in-person meetings coming up. They've been doing primarily Zoom meetings, and I know a number of people may not be available for them or may not have the technology to partake in them. So with that, I will close my comments, but I will say that if you have any questions regarding your express bus lines, feel free to put those questions in the chat, or you can ask me here. I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns that you may have. I know that folks in Rideau Park, or that take the QM10, for example, that line has a lot of folks concerned because of the merging of the QM10 with the QM12 and the QM40, which runs along 3rd Avenue with the QM42. So those are two big changes that would impact large communities like LaFrac City, which would be seeing, again, a service cut and a merging of service. So those are my comments today, and any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you. Please now welcome James Mongaluzzo from the New York City Comptroller's Office.
Hi, everyone. Just want to give you an update from the last meeting. Once again, our office is monitoring the situation. We've been listening to what people have to say at different civic meetings, at different community board meetings that I attend and that other members of the office attend. We see similar concerns across different parts of the borough related to headways. So, we've noted that there's many that feel like the buses should run more frequently. We're still continuing to gather information. We're still looking to hire a policy person whose job would be to handle these types of issues in their portfolio and monitor them in conjunction with our Bureau of Public Affairs, of which I'm a part of. We're still on the search for that person. So we don't have a policy person that is dedicated to the transit portfolio just yet. But our policy team is still monitoring it, and the head of our policy team is monitoring it while we await to have a dedicated person there. And we've also heard concerns from the bus drivers, from the unions, some questions about how the lines will how they'll be reformed and how that works with MTA bus versus New York City Transit and so on. So, I'm just continuing to monitor things. And if anyone wants to reach out to the office, if they have anything they want to bring to our attention, they can do so by calling 646-689-6509. I'll put this in the chat as well. That's my my government cell phone number, 646-689-6509. And if you wish to reach me by email, I'll say it again for people who might be on the phone. That's J, and then the first 6 letters of my last name, MONGEL. So again, that's JMONGEL at comptroller.nyc.gov. So JMONGEL at comptroller.nyc.gov. So if you have any concerns, please send them. And same with your organization here. If you want to send anything in particular, especially things related to the contracts and so on that you think our policy team might want to see, please email me any information you wish for us to review. And thank you for the time, and please don't hesitate to reach out.
Oh, James, yeah, we might have some questions throughout the meeting. So yeah, we'll just call you when we need you.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Also, just briefly, James, if you could possibly, so that way for those who may want to contact you and stuff, could you possibly also put that in the chat so that way people have that for the record?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm putting it in right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Please now welcome Christopher Greif, the Acting ADA Director for Passengers United, who has also served on the Long Island Railroad's ADA Task Force, as well as the New York City Transit Authority's the New York City Transit's Advisory Committee on Transit Accessibility, the ACTA. He is also the subcommittee chairperson for Technology and Information on the ACTA, as well as serving for the New York Advocate for Disability. He is a New York Advocate for Disability. Please welcome Christopher Greif.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm here. Can I have access to share the screen, please?
Yes, you do. You should have it.
I'll try again.
Should be a co-host.
Yeah, you're a co-host, and you can.
All good.
Yeah, you have the ability to override what I'm doing.
Okay. First of all, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. And I thank you for the introduction. I am Christopher G. Greif, and as I represent the members of the Advisory Committee for Transit Accessibility, which stands for ACTOR, which a lot of people are still getting used to the new name, but also as I'm the chair of Technology Information, and I deal with the Long Island Railroad. And some of you see me in my other titles of transit. But today I'm here to give you guys a easier way to update. First of all, one thing we want to make it very clear to everyone. Some of us are concerned about bus stops. They're supposed to be clean, that they're supposed to be discontinuing, or possibly. Let me remind you, that is DOT's point over there. But I'm going to remind you, everyone, as you see these pictures here, connections like major transit points, near neighborhoods, hospitals, parks, those areas still may stay there. But I will remind you all that it's very important to please put your support letters and visit the MTA's Queens Bus Network Redesign and put your comments in. We need to put those comments in, so therefore your bus stop is safe. Now there's day have programs, seniors, schools, that's added too. Now, I'll remind you, if you know that bus stops are getting very heavy and they're thinking of discontinuing that bus stop, you need to say something. And a support letter is the strongest letter, not just going to the MTA, but sending it also to CC your elected officials from city, state, and federal. So please make sure. And regarding bus shelters, please make sure you speak to DOT because they deal with the shelters and those benches. They have to make sure they put in correctly. And make sure it's not just ADA safety, it's a fire safety. Make sure that there's room access for sidewalks, not just for wheelchairs, but walkers and any mobile devices that has to get complete access to it. So please make sure you all are prepared for that as well. Now, you do see some of these pictures here. These pictures represent different things. Now, I agree with the last person who spoke about the express buses. I agree with that because Queens is the only borough that still has the old dinosaur signs. The lollipop signs are there. Some areas we are seeing them starting to put them in. All I can say is we need to remind them what stops are they going to have. So please make sure, as again, and I said, please put that comment in. Every bus stop should have the new update signs. And soon they will be adding something new coming up soon, to let you know how many minutes when that bus is coming. So let me move on to the next step. But let me remind everyone, this is only a draft. We need to be very clear that we need to make clear where these routes are going to be going. The main things they're trying to do is try to connect them to an accessible train station. That is one. Two, regarding express buses, A lot of people, I understand they're very upset. We need to make it very clear that to everyone, please put your comments in and say something about the express buses. We really do need them to run. That's why they're there for. And remind everyone, please pay your fare on these buses. That adds to keep the ridership numbers up. Your Metro card or your Omni card. Anything you have to help to keep the fare, but keep the ridership up. It's very important as well. You still have time to put that in as well. But now let me move on to our next thing. That MTA is starting up as well. As accessibility, we are getting ready to work on step 1 procedures of the Omni Reduced Fare. As you see this information link, please make sure you visit the new mta.info/fares/reduced fares/Omni. And that information is linked, will help you if you have a reduced fare Metro card now. If you do, you should be updating to the step 1 procedure to make sure you're up to date to the two choices, the card or the app. There are 2 choices on that, and I will explain that very quickly. Once you get onto that app link as well, when that app is on, it is very important to put your first name, your last name, your date of birth. If you have an email address, now note, if you have an email address from Accessorize, you can link that to your Omni account as well. Reduced fare ID number is located under the person's name. Once you do that, then you should be up to the next steps of choosing the card or the app. Once you choose one of those, you should be clicking on the submit color. You'll see a submit and you'll see a color green. Green means it's all good. That means you're up to date and you will be waiting for step 2. Once we should be hearing that maybe very soon to be announced. But if they send you an email back saying that your information is not up to date, there is a page 1, which is reduced fare Metro card anywhere you go to the vehicles or print out the page 1. It is very simple to do that, and it will help to make sure that you're up to date. Now, we will be updating once you do get the Omni card, you will be getting a chance not to have to energize at the train station, but at stores or right on your computer as well. The choice is yours, how you want to deal with that. I know I will be dealing with questions later on. If anyone has any questions, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Thank you.
Can you go back to the 2 slides, please? Myra wanted you to do that.
Which slide, please?
The slide about the registration for Omni.
This is the procedure 1 I'm giving.
I think it was slide 2.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So that's just the link is on the same page at the next page.
Okay, so everyone see the slide? It's up there. If you see it, if you click on Christopher's photo, it automatically comes up full screen on your device. So what we need people to understand, we're going to be asking a lot. We know all of you have a lot of ED questions about bus stop eliminations, and that's why Christopher's here tonight. So Christopher also serves on the PCC, on the New York City Transit Writers Council, and he does an excellent job. So why don't we do this? Why don't we let Vittorio go first? Because I know Vittorio has questions about the Express, and we've had a lot of complaints about that. So Vittorio, if you have a question, jump in now.
I don't have a question. I wanted to, there was a question in the chat that I wanted to answer if possible. And I think it was Mira or Myra, I'm not sure of the pronunciation, but she had a question about the QM15, QM16, and QM17. What I can say about the 3 lines is the routing will remain pretty much the same. However, the QM15 will no longer make I think it's about 3 or so trips that serve Howard Beach. Those are trips that go further east into Old Howard Beach. And those trips they want to completely eliminate. So those those trips would no longer terminate over by Old Howard Beach. They would all terminate by Cross Bay Boulevard in the Lindenwood Howard, the New Howard Beach is what I should say. Lindenwood New Howard Beach is where they would be terminating at. So if anyone's familiar with that, I think there's a CVS over there by Cross Bay Boulevard. That's where they normally terminate on Saturdays and during off-peak periods. All of the buses would now be terminating there with this redesign. The other difference is with the QM15, if you get it off-peak during the week or on weekends, you normally get a bus during those time periods once an hour. With the redesign that they're proposing, you would get a bus every hour and 30 minutes. And so that is a big problem, that particularly on Saturdays. I know a lot of people like to go to the city for dinner and shows, Rockefeller Center, all that good stuff. And so having to wait that long is a big issue and very concerning for sure. So that is one of the major things that will be a problem. If you go to Queens during rush hour in the afternoons, you're going to be waiting longer. What they have proposed is to give you average wait times, and the average wait times generally are going to be longer, but again, they are averages. So there may be times where you could be waiting. Let's say they have an average here for 15 of, they're saying, let's see here, proposed 18 minutes, but that's the average time. You may be waiting a lot longer than 18 minutes, depending on when you're waiting for that bus. So that is the QM15. The 16 and 17 have pretty much the same routing, but again, you're going to be waiting longer for the bus. And these are two rush hour express buses, but you're still going to be waiting longer. So that's the one thing I want to stress with this is they are not really eliminating that many stops on the express bus lines on most of the lines, with some exceptions. You really want to focus primarily on the wait times, and if you're going to be seeing significant service cuts to your off-peak service, I think that's something that is a big problem. So this plan, the revised one, is a big improvement over the first one, which was disastrous, quite frankly, with what they were trying to do with trying to chop up the lines, the cuts to the stands, and the frequency. This is a lot better, but we really need to fight to make sure that we make it clear that no one should be waiting in New York City an hour and 30 minutes for a bus. We have a lot of people that need to go to doctor's appointments during off-peak periods. We have that senior discount that many seniors use during off-peak, and they should be able to take the bus to go into Manhattan or to go back to Queens. And that's something else we really need to stress to the MTA, and I have been very vocal about it because I was one of the people that tried to fight to get the senior discount extended back to rush hour periods a couple of years ago. They shut us down on it, but we have to really make it clear that these buses are extremely important to a number of communities that do not have subway service in Queens and across the city. So that's my comments for those three lines.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Vittorio. I have some quick questions for Chris. Christopher, my questions are this.
Yes, sir.
So obviously with the local bus stops, we have a lot of local bus stops that are proposed for elimination. Now, what happened with the Bronx bus redesign that started on Sunday? Many residents are upset that they lost their bus stops, and some of these bus stops actually had bus shelters. So I actually had a meeting. Can all of you hear me?
Yes,
Loud and
Charles,
clear.
we can hear.
Okay, so I actually had a meeting with the head of Samosa and the bus shelter company that does the bus shelters. And so she did tell me that if a bus stop is eliminated and it had a bus shelter, that bus shelter would be relocated to the new bus stop. But in many cases with the Bronx bus redesign, the merchants are complaining that they lost the bus shelters. The bus shelters, the new shelters have not been put up. So I think that our complaint for the local and express buses here in Queens has to be that if a bus stop is being moved and it has a bus shelter, then a commitment needs to be made and a promise needs to be made that that bus shelter will be relocated to the new stop. But what I think the general concerns of Queens passengers are, they don't want to walk 6 to 7 or 8 blocks to a bus stop. So what I need to know from you, what is the EDA boarding guidelines on bus stops?
Technically, the bus stops are supposed to be anywhere between a 2 or 2.5 blocks. It depends what part of Queens or what part of the borough. The only borough that has long blocks, is in Manhattan, and those are 1 block, one stop block, because there are certain stops that connects not just the buses but accessible train stations. But technically, the way that the design that somebody was claiming that was going to be a 7-block radius of the next stop, that is part not true. There are some lines, I will say Northern Boulevard right now. It is proposal for a 2 or 3 blocks. It depends if is there an area of a block. Like example, if there is a precinct, and how some police are blocking or double, triple parking, it's not easy to get the bus stop or get the person off the bus. But it depends how they have to keep the stops even.
Yeah,
just
so
remember,
be sufficient though. 3 blocks, like even 3 blocks apart will be sufficient.
that?
Me, Frederick.
Oh, hi, Frederick. I'm just making sure who's speaking.
yeah, Frederick, can you do me a favor, Frederick? Hold on, we'll get to you in a second. So the point I wanted to make is, for instance, with the Q27, right?
Mhm.
I'll give that
Yeah.
as an example. The
Mhm.
107th Street and Springfield Boulevard stop by PS 34 is going to be there. But the 104th Avenue stop is being eliminated. And then the next stop is Hempstead Avenue. That is a long walk. That's about a good 6 to 7 minute walk for me. What about our seniors? So some of these bus stop distances are really far. So what I'm saying is the MTA measuring the bus stops to be equal instead of some stops being 8 blocks apart, 9 blocks apart, like that. I think that's what the concern is, because the way the MT is doing it is they're just eliminating like 1 or 2 bus stops, like, on a map. They're just doing it. Are they physically measuring these bus stops? That's what
It's
my
not
question is.
Charles, let's make one thing clear. It's not just MTA doing this, it's also DOT as well, because unfortunately, I know you missed last night's meeting. The DOT, city and state have to really look at some of the stops. Now, the one thing I definitely agree with what you're saying, because I looked at the stop you're talking about, and technically the way they have those stops, it's 3 blocks already, and they shouldn't even have to touch them. It's already the max level. Now, if you have a lot of seniors, and I said this maybe a good 10 minutes ago, it is very important to remind everyone that each stop needs to be, people got to put it in saying, there's a lot of people there. And I mentioned this at Jessica's town hall as well, and I'm going to say this again. Put it in your comments in there. If you don't just, not just one person saying it, but it has to be 10 to at least a lot of people need to say something. If we don't hear that, it's like I mentioned to the Bronx people. If you know that bus stop was going to be discontinued and you didn't do anything about it, how can we all advocate for it? It shouldn't just be one person.
Well,
ahead,
wait
Charles.
a minute. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Bronx, all the merchants at in the Merchants Association over there.
Yes, and I know one of the merchants, and they actually realized, they said to me, and not just me, but they realized when some of the merchants, and I'm not going to say which ones because I want to be careful, because I didn't ask their permission to speak on behalf of them, so I'm going to use the HIPAA carefulness law on that. A lot of the merchants also got to realize too, if you want that bus up and you have a lot of people, say something. That is the one issue that I can go to every merchant in one of the boroughs and said, you have all these customers getting off your bus and you really want to keep it. Say something to them or help out your fellow customers, reminding them.
But wait a minute. Here's the concern. All the store merchants in the Bronx were saying to the community boards, they had no idea that this was going on. They had no idea. So that is the concern.
They were notified. Committee board
No,
did
many of
notify.
them did not know about it. They were not, and this is what I'm concerned about for Queens. So what a lot of the participants on the Zoom chat right now are asking me is, Charlton, how do we fight this? And I think the way we fight this is, we have to show up to the MT board and committee meetings in large numbers. And I would say we need to hold our elected officials responsible for this.
Elected
And
officials
we
number
need to
one.
hold them to the fire, you know? So why don't we keep this meeting moving along? I think there's any of the general public have quick questions? I think Frederick
Hold on.
had a quick question.
I know.
There's one quick thing that I wanted to add about the bus shelters. Is this is a very important point. And Charlton, you were saying that we need to make sure that the bus shelter, wherever it is, if it's going to be moved to another stop, that is a tricky thing, because one of the issues I ran into when I was fighting for more bus shelters, because a lot of people want more bus shelters. Not every stop is large enough to accommodate a bus shelter.
Correct.
Or even a mini one. And so
Right.
where you have a bus shelter in one stop, because of there's a certain amount of space that is needed to allow people to get to walk and get around and all of that. And so where you have a bus shelter at now, there is no guarantee that you're going to have a bus shelter at the new location, because there may not be enough space. And that's something that I believe is determined by the Department of Transportation, as far as I know.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's something that you want to, Charlton, you really want to keep an eye on, because I don't know, the distance and everything else. Like I said, obviously we have two different types of bus shelters. We have the regular sized ones. We have the large ones where you have, let's say, very large stops. You have 2 or 3 of them together. And then you have the mini ones where you have a confined amount of space, but you still squeeze in a bus shelter. So I think you want to make sure that wherever you have bus shelters at, if you have concerns about getting a bus shelter at the new stop, you want to make sure that there is enough space to get one in there, because there is no guarantee that there will be.
So I think what we're going to do is I know all of you were asking me how come DOT is not on this meeting. We did invite DOT, but they didn't respond in a timely manner back to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to have another Zoom meeting at some point, because I just want to let everyone on this chat know, if you don't know already, that the MT is having in-person pop-up meetings throughout Queens. We're going to be posting that information on our Facebook page. I think we did post it last night. It's on the Facebook page. Also, Mrs. Mercado posted it on the Queens Bus Redesign Facebook group. And I think, Vittorio, you posted it on your group as well, the pop-up locations. So we are definitely going to speak to the Commissioner of DOT, and I'm going to try to have a special meeting with DOT where we can all attend. So like this, we're all on the same page, because I think of these redesign meetings that the MT is holding, a lot of the complaints are about bus stops. So I think DOT should be sitting in on all these meetings. It should be the borough president, DOT, someone from the community board, and that sort of thing. There seems to be a lot of miscommunication, and not everything is together. So that's something that we're going to try to work on. But one of my other questions is this. Let's say if a bus shelter cannot be put in the new bus stop, then my concern is, what about street lighting? Are they looking at crosswalks, and are they studying the intersections for like our senior citizens and for wheelchairs to make sure that
You
the
mean people with
crosscuts?
disabilities, Charles? We got to be careful what we're saying. You mean disability? We don't want to leave out.
Oh, I'm sorry about
walkers.
that. Walker. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So I'm tired, guys. I just did 24 hours. My
Don't worry
brain is
about it,
all over
Charles.
the
I
place.
got you back. I understand. You
Okay.
sound like you need a 6-year. You need a vacation too. I know the feeling.
Yep. Okay, but you get my point.
Yeah. That's why I got you back. But Charles, to answer that question, I did put up. I remind
Right.
everyone.
This is not for me. This is for everyone on the call.
No.
You can answer.
I'm answering this question, and I actually agreed with Ben. Forgive me, I forget names too. I'm starting to feel the same way, Charles. I definitely agree. Sorry, Ben. I'm just like Charles today. I definitely agree with him, because he's absolutely correct. Because there are some sidewalks that are not humongous, and everyone's got to realize there's also a fire lane, accessibility lane, because wheelchairs have to have wheelchairs, walkers, or any person has to have access to walk, even on or off, but also walking down the block. Now, The community board's responsibility, I'm going to tell you, is to let the community know and your city officials to let the business division know. Now, that's one piece. That's where the community needs to know when these redesigns are coming, the redesign of bus stops, because here's the thing. As I said this before, if everyone does, please pass the word out and let them know there is a redesign, there is a draft. This is not approved. And I've seen people reading saying the buses are being discontinued. There is nothing being discontinued. They are being, right now we're up to draft 3. But as a reminder, please put your comments into the Queens redesign and put it in. But I suggest, if you know a bus stop, you know there's a lot of seniors and people with disabilities, including the express buses. And Vinny, I think you agree what I'm saying, because I'm hearing a lot of issues with the express bus stops. We need everyone to please put a support letter, because these drivers who are driving these express buses is very important. And no, the Q41 is not being discontinued. It's being replaced by a different bus. That has not been decided. And I know Howard Beach, because I was out there, Howard Beach, on the weekend. And I can tell you one thing is the Q41 is still running now, but it has to be fixed in a certain way to make clear to get you guys to Jamaica, Queens, or to a connection accessible train station. So wherever you want to go to get where you have to go. Even they have to stand a bus to get there as well. And a lot of things, yeah, I know that what News 11 said, him and I already spoke, and he realized he has to, everyone of the press have to be very careful what they're saying, but it's a different thing. What I'm finding out, the information is available, and it's free information, and it's on the MTA. But as Vince and I'm saying, we can say a lot of things in the MTA and advocate, but not fighting. But we need you to remind everyone to please put the support letters. If you know there's a bus stop, you really need to keep that. You need to keep advocating, and you need to make sure that DOT hears you.
Yeah, so we're going to go right to Paul Trust. And guys, we're going to get to all the comments from the public. I know you all have so many comments, but the reason why we wanted to do the presentations first is so that you get an idea, because some of your questions might be answered in the presentation, or that your concerns might be addressed. So I've heard of all the concerns. We're getting a lot of reports about the Q101. I know all of you in Astoria, we're working on that. The Q101 should go to Manhattan. It shouldn't be detoured to Brooklyn with a new route. No, we don't want that. So we're going to get to Paul Trust right now, because he's been waiting. He's going to give us a presentation on the shortening of the Q53 SBS, and there's a new alternative being considered. So let's go to Paul Trust right now. He's going to need a split screen, guys. Can we just make him a shared screen? I'm sorry.
Hey, Charlton. Yeah, I think I see that as an option. Let me. Hello, everyone. I'm just gonna see if I can get this up and running. Okay, let me go here. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Great. Okay, not share. Sorry, get off that. We got a slideshow. Great. There we go. Okay, awesome. All right, so my name is Paul Trust. Not in my office. I'm actually out visiting my father in Fort Lauderdale for his 75th birthday, so I'm poolside right now. But I wanted to definitely pop in, and I really appreciate Charlton and Passengers United offering me the opportunity to speak on behalf of QueensLink. I am the advocacy liaison for QueensLink, which basically means I'm kind of like the hype man and doing outreach for this proposal. So the QueensLink is the proposal that is being run with. We have the ball that says Rockaway Beach branch on it, and we are running with it to try to get a touchdown. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about what our proposal is, how it's been different from other proposals of the past, some of the challenges, and some of the, what we're trying to get accomplished, and answer any questions if possible after I am done with my presentation. So what is QueensLink? Well, QueensLink is a concept on how best to use this very valuable transit asset. So the Rockaway Beach branch ended, I believe it was 1962. We're actually in the 60th anniversary right now of the last train to run on the Rockaway Beach branch. It used to be a Long Island Railroad. After it got shut down, the Long Island Railroad sold it to the city. So it's actually a city asset that's been just kind of sitting there and decaying, growing trees, place for homeless people to hang out and the teenagers to take their first 40 ounce on, you get the idea. So it's been a problem for neighbors, for issues of crime and safety. So it's this dotted line you're seeing right here. That's what we're talking about. It's about a 3.2 mile.
I'm so sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
People wanted to know, can you explain how this relates to the Queens bus redesign? Because that's what they wanted to hear.
Sure. Okay, so the Q53 was basically intended to be the replacement after the Rockaway Beach branch was shut down. The Q53 parallels the Rockaway Beach branch. So while the Q53 travels on Woodhaven Boulevard, the Rockaway Beach branch is several blocks over to the east from where Woodhaven Boulevard is. So in many ways, the proposal we're trying to do does what the Q53 does, but would be a lot more faster and more reliable. So that is the connectivity here to this presentation, to this meeting we're having here. So the idea is to start off at 63rd Drive, Rego Park. So we're talking the Queens Boulevard lines right here. And so this would be an M train extension running from 63rd Drive, Rego Park, and would continue on south and continue down to the Rockaways. Now, the bottom part of the Rockaway Beach branch has already been reactivated. It's the A train where it continues down to the Rockaways. So that part has already, come back into existence and is being used by the city. And the part we're talking about is this dotted line above it. That's a 3.2 miles stretch that we are looking to also reactivate and have the train continue alongside on the same tracks as the A train down to the Rockaways. So what makes our proposal different from previous, this is not the first time people have looked to reactivate the Rockaway Beach branch, is that I think it was maybe 2017, Queens Chamber of Commerce had us in a room with a competing proposal that wants to turn the abandoned tracks into a linear park. They wanted to turn it into what is basically, they wanted envisioning like the High Line of Queens, and they're called Queens Way. Had us in a meeting and was wondering, is there any way there could be both transit and parks? At the time, the two opposing teams said no. What we have, what gave birth to QueensLink is we said, yes, there completely can be park and transit side by side. So what I have over here are some examples of that. These are places around the country that have successfully merged park and transit from Massachusetts to Florida to California to Georgia. Okay, I'm going to move on because I know I got a lot to cover. So I wanted to quickly go over, because people get confused because Governor Hochul has been promoting the IBX. So the IBX is about 14 miles of track. You can see it here in blue. It's going to go from Bay Ridge up to Jackson Heights. So we're talking about is, roughly 3.5 miles of track that was going from Rego Park down here. And where they would connect, because people often ask, can the two connect? Technically, they're parallel lines. You can see them on Google Maps, these green strips going in north and south. Ours would connect though, because it is an M train extension. So it would connect at Jackson Heights. That's where the M train would connect with the IBX. So what is QueensLink trying to do? It's trying to provide environmental, economic, transit, educational justice for Queens and South Queens in particular, and Central Queens. So we're looking to take tens of thousands of cars off the road. Anyone who's tried to go down to the Rockaways and driven along the Woodhaven Boulevard or the Van Wyck, you know how it can get. Also, all those pollutants, we know they all go right into Jamaica Bay. So this is an area of concern because we're trying to restore Jamaica Bay and keep it clean and pristine. Economic benefits, we're talking about a lot of business districts along the line that could benefit. And also, as well as they're looking to expand Resorts World. Resorts World we've spoken to, they've had challenges accessing markets in Midtown, Western Queens, and Central Queens. So this would help gain them access, which could provide wonderful employment opportunities there as well as access to JFK. South Queens has some of the longest commute times in the country. Q53 on a bad day can take you 2.5 hours to run it. If you go by subway, Queenslink, we're looking maybe around 45 minutes. So it could cut that significantly down, which improves your quality of life. Also, the ability for South Queens to get to Midtown. Education, easier access to schools such as, York College, LaGuardia, to high schools such as Metropolitan High School. It's been proven time and again that students who have shorter commutes are able to focus more on their schoolwork and get better grades. So this is again about economic, educational, and transit equity for South Queens, which is underserved communities. Right. So people are like, oh, great, you're going to have like a 7 train, or you're going to have a J train running through our backyard. That's not how trains are built anymore. So that is, well, don't imagine those rickety screeching trains that you see now, the J train or the 7. We're trying to address the concerns of the community. We're doing outreach, noise, traffic, trash, safety, trying to talk to businesses along the route, and also to see what can be done. How can tracks be reactivated while also keeping as much wild growth in Forest Park and along the right-of-way as possible? The right-of-way is basically the abandoned track area. In Forest Park, it happens to be very wide, and you can completely have trails and also tracks at the same time. So some of the modern solutions that are important to know is that we're talking largely about an earth embankment, like you see up here in the upper right, which is far quieter than the rickety 7 or the rickety J. There's also ways to do reinforced concrete to create a quieter, smoother ride. Sound barriers, such as you see here, can be created along, which provide safety as well as quiet. Some of these sound barrier companies claim 100% sound absorption. And other noise mitigation measures can be taken, such as welding the rail so you don't hear that dun, 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 when your train goes by. If the way tracks are welded now, that avoids that sound. There are 3 ways to go about it, basically going from cheapest to most expensive. A would be to cut off a little bit of the embankment to create these trails, like a linear park along the side. Another would be to create what looks almost like the air train here, which would create a whole lot more park space, but of course is more expensive. The third option would be tunnel it, just go right underground. You can basically do that from Forest Park up through to Rego Park, and then the whole space above can be used for park space. So those are the 3 options. The local benefits is, there'd be cleaner streets. You wouldn't have the dumping problems you have now. You would have better transit and bike infrastructure, so less need to drive. We have climate goals for 2030 and 2050 that we're trying to meet. This would help with that. It would help with businesses along the route. You have a lot of hurting businesses, such as along Atlantic Avenue could use some help. Jamaica Avenue could use some help. Metropolitan Avenue is a transit desert. All these could benefit economically from having greater transportation. Access to foodie neighborhoods, such as Little Guyana, Little Punjab. I live in Richmond Hill. I happen to be very particular to these neighborhoods and think they have wonderful food, but many don't know how to get there. So this could definitely help with that. Also, as we mentioned, Resorts World Aqueduct. Resorts World is looking to expand. You have access not only to the Rockaways, but to a wonderful casino, world-class casino destination if they get their Title III license as they're applying for. And yeah, as I said, ways to get to the Rockaways quicker without a car. So how much time we talking saving? We're talking about 45 minutes total. Let's say you live, let's say by Howard Beach, and you're looking to commute to Midtown. It'll save you about 45 minutes total time going in your average commute. That adds up to a lot during the week. Whereas if you're trying to get to Midtown currently by the A train, you got to go all the way through Brooklyn, up through downtown and up to Midtown. So, we're all talking, edging towards an hour a day. And that really affects people's quality of life just for commuting to Midtown. Another benefit is that by diverting the M South instead of ending at Forest Hills, this allows for, because right now the Queens Boulevard line is only running at 66% capacity. This will allow for more trains to run. So even if you don't live in South Queens, you're going to benefit on the Queens Boulevard lines. This could actually even allow for the return of the G train, which the MTA is saying there isn't enough capacity for it. This would allow the extra capacity for the return of the G train, which is almost like 2 reactivations in one, would connect Queens with Brooklyn that way, and also be a north-south reactivation connecting Central, Western, and South Queens. As far as costs, well, that's where we also came in. We used discretionary funds from a couple city council members and discovered that the feasibility study that the MTA ran and released in 2019, they determined if subway reactivation is feasible. They put an incredible price tag of it, $8 billion. Which, you know, we made it the most expensive transit project, I believe, in the world, certainly more than the Second Avenue subway, which is tunneling through bedrock, which we're like, no, there's no way it could be that expensive. So we hired a third party to conduct their own study. And what they discovered is a lot of the costs were the same. This green line you see with the dotted line, about the same cost for like the materials, the concrete, the steel. But what they had over exaggerated is the soft costs, like things that you kind of make up out of thin air, how much lawyers are going to cost, professional services, special conditions. So they took, I'm sorry, not special conditions, like year of expenditure, like how much it would inflate. So they sort of took these soft costs that are kind of hard to quantify and just sort of blew them up using non-standard algorithms.
So Paul,
yes.
what people are asking on the chat is, how does this free up space on the buses? And I think it would free up a lot of spaces on the buses, because all the people going through would be on throughput from North Queens to South Queens would use this Queens link, and that would free up more buses for other parts of the borough that really need them in transit deserts.
So let me go back to the screen. So what you see here is the path of Queenslink, and over here you see where it says the Woodhaven Boulevard stop. So you have the Woodhaven Boulevard paralleling where Queenslink would exist. So Queenslink as a subway can take a whole bunch more passengers than the Q53. So if you're talking of going from Jackson Heights down to, you know, what is essentially a parallel of where the Q53 goes, you're going to be able to take a lot more passengers a lot quicker. So what we're looking at is parallel roads like Woodhaven Boulevard and the Van Wyck are just going to free up a ton of space, and people essentially that South Queens' car culture that have cars now may not need to rely on their cars as much, especially as we see gas prices going up. It'd be nice.
And also the Q10 Limited, which also runs parallel. Now people could take this rail link, and that would also free up traffic on Liberty. Is it Liberty, or what's the one the Q10 goes on?
The Q10 goes down
Lefferts.
Yeah.
So that would
Q10,
free up
that's
space.
Another one. Absolutely. Right. You know, yeah, I didn't really think about that, but yes, that's another major you know, artery of bus transit. And that, you know, as we said, this ends up connecting where the A train is already the reactivated part. So you get to like Howard Beach JFK Airport. This provides another way for you to connect to the air train that is going to be much shorter than, say, going from Jamaica. So
and this would also would this also benefit the Q41 riders? And obviously,
I'm sorry, remind me what the Q41,
the Q41 goes through Lindenwood. So this would also help express bus riders as well, this new link, correct?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the Q41 and the exact stops and the route that follows. I can get back to you on that and see if that would be a benefit. The main point though is that subways were designed largely to go to Manhattan. And as people, it's been determined that more people live and work in the outer boroughs, that we need more north-south connectivity. That's what the IBX is trying to do, to connect those transit deserts. And that's what Queenslink would, by providing a stop. If you see it here, it's on Metropolitan. There'd be a stop at Jamaica Avenue. So we'll go through Forest Park, just like the 53 does. And stop at Jamaica Avenue, at Atlantic Avenue, a stop at Liberty Avenue. And so that's where you get your little guy on a little Punjab. And continue down to.
Would people be able to transfer from that to a local bus as part of this concept? Like the buses that go sideways, like Jamaica Avenue, Atlantic.
So this is an M train extension. That's the concept, is a subway reactivation that the MTA has done a study, proved is feasible. So this would be like any other MetroCard swipe. So if you're going from, if you normally go take your MetroCard swipe to use it for the buses and the subways, it would be the same thing.
Okay, thank you so much. So Paul done a great presentation. Let's just give Paul a round of applause. Thank you so much, Paul.
Hold on. Sorry, can I ask a question to Paul Charlton?
Yeah, go ahead. Hurry up.
Okay, so I am the as everybody knows, the regional representative for Passengers United for the Long Island Railroad. And my question is, in regards to, of course, to the Long Island Railroad, your plan, would that include a possibility of, for example, if you're coming from the Rockaways and you want to go, I don't know, to Long Island for recreational reasons, or maybe even you have a job on Long Island, you want to take the train. Is there an option to be able to connect with the Long Island Railroad with this plan?
Yes, there is. Let me see. Let me go back to screen sharing real quick, and I'll show you the map for that. So where we see Long Island's connectivity, let me just see if I can pull that up again real quick. All right, so where there is connection, I'm gonna just make this slightly bigger, see if I can zoom in. So over here, you see there is the Long Island Railroad Atlantic branch. There is a station stop at Woodhaven that is just basically sitting there, Atlantic Avenue, Woodhaven, that we would like to, as also to be considered, that we would advocate for to reactivate. So that would be the best way to have the connectivity for this proposal. As far as So the fact we're looking at subway versus Long Island Railroad, there would not be a stop at the Long Island Railroad main line. There instead it would continue to Rego Park. So we're looking at subway reactivation versus Long Island Railroad reactivation.
Okay, so
Okay,
yeah,
great,
we have a
thank you.
lot of people. Yeah, we have a lot of people who want to speak, and everyone's getting a bit impatient. I'm sorry, guys. We just wanted to cover because the last meeting we had, a lot of you were asking me about the borough of Queens, and is there anything that we can do to try to mitigate this Queens bus redesign thing, to look at the overall picture. So let's take everyone's questions. And I believe our first speaker is Jack. Take it away.
All right, thank you very much. So, just to a brief description of how this will work, you will be given 2 minutes. As you have registered, you'll be given 2 minutes to make your remarks. Again, and I know I'm going to be repeating this all the time, if you have not registered tonight and you wish to speak today, you must register at bit.ly/QBNRSpeak2. Once again, if you wish to speak tonight, you must register, and you will have 2 minutes. Once you have 30 seconds remaining, you will hear a single chime, and that's just a 30-second warning. It'll be, if you got confused at the meeting on June 6th, don't worry, I did make some modifications to the timer so that it will be easier to distinguish those two chimes. There will be a double chime at the end of your time. So just wanted to let you know how that works. So up first we have Joy Jung, followed by Stephen Raga. Joy, are you here?
Office. We need a bus who doesn't try to access a ride. Please don't remove this stop. Please. Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Joy G. I'm speaking about the bus stop on Northern and 211 ST because of that's the disability medical office. We need a bus who doesn't try to access a ride. Please don't remove this stop. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephen Raga, followed by Andy Pollock.
Hi all. How are you? I'm really just here to make sure I keep my ears to the ground and seeing what folks are concerned with. A lot of these are, if we remember, right before the pandemic, the bus redesign was one of the main issues there for the state. So now it's getting back to the fore. How do we make sure that our constituents, at least in the district that I'm looking to represent in a few months, get impacted? So just I'll be making sure that I'm joining more often and meeting with folks when we can. So happy to build with you and happy and thank you for setting this this stage together so we could talk this out. So thanks a lot, guys.
Steve, before you leave, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you there? Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry, guys. I just have to ask Steve a question. First, I want to congratulate you on winning the election. Stephen Raga is going to be the first Filipino assembly member in the New York State Legislature. So we're very excited to have you on board. The question I had for you was, as an elected official, in next year, will you support a third bus transfer? Because I know that's come up before the State Assembly and the Senate, where a third bus transfer would allow Queens commuters to take a third bus on $2.75 fare.
I have to let me look into it, but it sounds fine. It sounds like common sense. So, of course, I think that's definitely would help more working class folks that use transit and have to go really far to make these multiple transfers. So for sure, but let me look at it. But sounds very practical and something I'd support. I would be that's number one. Number two, I do have a general opponent, so I'm not 100% in headed to Albany yet. And this is for Assembly District 30. So this is Woodside, Maspeth, Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, and Middle Village.
Yeah, and also we wanted the Q32, which is in your district, I believe.
Yeah, in Roosevelt. Yeah.
A lot of the workers are fighting for overnight bus service. Even the Q101, which I think goes towards the edges of your district or the proposed district, the 101, everyone's complaining that the 101 is no longer going to Manhattan. And that's going to be an issue. So, we'll definitely work with you on getting overnight service, because one thing with this Queens bus redesign, there's no night owl bus service. And a lot of the express buses don't serve Northern Queens, where you're at. They only serve, parts of like the other part of Queens, but not really like Jackson Heights, Corona, Woodside, Astoria. There's no express buses out there.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely an issue. I think I used to take the train when going to school very very late, and it was horrible. So even more so when folks need to take that extra mode of transportation from a bit farther. So love to learn more about the issue. Please send it over to me. Otherwise, I'm looking to touch base at another time whenever we get set up, and I'll be at these meetings for sure. I'll make sure I schedule it in, right?
Sure, and we would love to do a meeting in your community. We'll come out there, definitely.
Let's do it. Happy to do so. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you and congratulations. Our next speaker is Andy Pollack, followed by David Robert Kupferberg.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andy Pollack, and I'm a member of Passengers United. So let's talk about the Q30 tonight. Yes, this is my background. So like I had mentioned to Chairman General Lieber yesterday, this route is basically being threatened to be eliminated. And what's going to happen is the students at Queensborough Community College are not going to have a direct bus from the college to Jamaica Long Island Railroad. So if you're coming from Brooklyn, which I've known people over the years that have come from Brooklyn to Queensborough community for a long time, and they are concerned that they're not going to have a direct route to go where they need to be. The other concern I have is the Q88. I don't know what the MTA is thinking starting the route from Little Neck Parkway and Horace Harding Expressway when the 88 runs completely fine from Queens Village, from the train station over there, Long Island Railroad, all the way to Elmhurst. The route runs very well for a 40-minute trip normally. So I don't know what was the MTA thinking when they came up with this idea, but that does need to be reevaluated. And I will mention that at the last community meeting, I did talk about bus stops being eliminated. That also does need to, in fact, be reassessed. So that's all I'm going to say for now. One more thing. Union Turnpike and 224th Street westbound, that stop should be eliminated because Springfield Boulevard for the Q46 is right around the corner. So that's pretty much it, everyone. Have a good, safe 4th of July, and I expect to speak at the next meeting. Take care.
Thank you. Up next, we have David Robert Kupferberg, followed by Brian Schneider.
Hi. I think that some elements of the new draft plan exist in order to keep bus stops farther apart. For example, north of Flushing on Union Street, where the Q20 local and the Q44 SBS currently operate, the Q20 is proposed to be shifted to operate via Linden Hill Mitchell Gardens. Q20 is also proposed to be cut back from Jamaica to Queens Boulevard and Main Street. This would leave the Q44 SBS by itself. The stops currently used solely by the Q20 and Union Street in south and south of Queens Boulevard and Main Street are proposed to be eliminated. The MTA New York City Transit Service Guidelines Manual states that the distance between local bus stops should be no further than 750 feet. This was done along. The MTA should not hurt local riders by allowing the DOT to widen the distance between bus stops. This was done along Northern Boulevard and 35th Avenue. The people who live in the surrounding neighborhoods hate it. Many are demanding that some stops be restored. Luckily for the MTA and City DOT, I did my own analysis of bus stops within Queens. Solely based on the distances between them, 95% of the bus stops in Queens are fine exactly where they are. Frankly, to claim that the distance between stops should be more in line with our peers is wishful thinking. Different cities have different needs. Currently, the average bus speed within New York City is approximately 8.1 miles an hour. The average vehicular speed within New York City is approximately 9.7 miles an hour. Based on this logic, there should be no stops except at the terminals. We must all work together to have better bus service for Queens. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brian Schneider, followed by Michelle Doney. And please excuse me if I'm butchering anyone's name. I always say that. Is Brian here?
Brian, it looks like it's not here, Jack.
Gotcha. Up next, we have Michelle Doney.
Hi. So the proposed redesign completely eliminates the bus stop at 108th Street and 62nd Drive in Forest Hills. Currently, the Q23 local bus and the QM10, QM11, and QM40 express buses all stop there. At that location, there is senior citizen housing on one side of the street and a middle school on the other side of the street. That middle school serves students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, of which only the 6th graders ride the school bus, and the other grades rely on the local bus. This is unjust because eliminating that stop on the Q23 will force children and the elderly to walk farther to catch the bus in a neighborhood that is not entirely safe. The next nearest northbound stop on the Q23 is on the other side of the underpass for the LIE, which is dark and secluded even in the daytime. Under the proposed plan, the QM10 and QM40 express bus routes will be eliminated completely The QM12 and QM42 buses will be rerouted to partially compensate for the loss. However, even though they will both pass right by that corner on their new routes, they will not stop there, and neither will the QM11. For the neighborhood directly to the east, the stop at 108th and 62nd Drive is only our closest stop now because our closer stops have already been taken away in previous service cuts. To take the stop away from us too is completely unjust. Under the new plan, the closest express bus stop left in either direction under the new plan are both half a mile away from the building where I live, which is the Fairview Co-op, which is home to more than 400 families. In addition to being unjust, the decision to eliminate the express bus stop at that location is also premature. There are currently 3 large high-rise apartment buildings under construction with one block to the east of that stop. By the time the new plan is implemented, there will be several thousand additional residents of that block, and express bus ridership is likely to increase. The MTA should preserve that stop at least until all those buildings are finished and occupied, and they can take an updated ridership sample. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Myra Rubin, followed by Felicita Ayala. I am so sorry.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to say I took the Q41 twice yesterday, and I had to wait a half an hour in each direction. And the Q21 is supposed to run on a similar route in Howard Beach. The Q21 has never shown up. I take it the 41 every week back from a doctor's appointment, and I shouldn't have to wait. And they're thinking about eliminating parts of the Q41 so it won't come through Howard Beach anymore. And they'll be leaving us with the Q21. This is just completely ridiculous. It won't allow students to get to high school. It won't allow anybody to get to Jamaica. It won't allow us to get to the Long Island Railroad. I just don't understand what they were thinking. And in addition, the run for the Q41, the people in the middle of the run never get seats. It's terrible. They have to stand and we're squished in. I don't understand how they could even consider redesigning and eliminating that run. Thank you so much. Everybody have a safe, wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Felicita Ayala, followed by Nick Jablonski. No Felicita, going once, twice.
Hello?
Our next speaker.
Hello? Yes, I'm here.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to find out if there are going to be redesigning the 101 for it, if it's still going to continue going down Steinway. I live in East Elmhurst, and the only buses that are convenient is the 66, and that bus doesn't go all the way into the city. And going all the way to Queensboro Plaza just doesn't make any sense. It just takes more extra time.
So we are actually fighting with the MTA, and we're trying to plead with them to save the 101, because the Q101, especially, during the day and overnight and on weekends when the subway is being under construction, you need the 101 going directly into Manhattan. So you have our commitment on that. We are definitely working and we're going to do everything we can at Passengers United to advocate for that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Did you have anything else you wanted to state, or?
No, that was all.
Okay, thank you. And please join our Facebook page as well for updates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and that goes for all of us too. We do have a Facebook page where we are posting updates very regularly, so please check us out there. That's where we are the most active. Our next speaker is Nick Jablonski, followed by Eric Menjivar. No, Nick? Okay, our next speaker is Eric Menjivar.
Hi, before I even begin, I just want to thank Charlton again for having this meeting and also for visiting College Point just to hear from some of the residents over here. And on behalf of the College Point Civic and Taxpayers Association, I also want to thank you for considering us as well and inviting us to this meeting. I will reiterate a few things that I said at the previous meeting and also at the MTA virtual meeting back in May. With the bus redesign affecting College Point, we're seeing very little changes in the frequency and just simply changes in routes and changes in bus stops being removed. I'll give again the example of like College Point Boulevard and 25th Road, stop on the Q65. On the new Q27, which will be replacing the Q65, that bus stop is being eliminated. If you go on the Q65 every single morning, you'll see on 25th Road and College Point Boulevard, there is usually a line of people. And to imagine that this stop is being removed just goes to show the basic lack of knowledge that people behind this redesign have of College Point. And going back to the Q25, in which it's going to be fragmented, and then Q17 replacing that. Basically, people who live on the boulevard do not have a direct access, bus route heading to Jamaica. They'll have to take the Q25, then the Q25 just to get to Jamaica. So basically, we're forcing people to move longer distances, just based on what algorithms and computers are determining. And I'm hopeful that the MTA will be listening to us, especially in the coming months, that we'll be able to have College Point and other abandoned communities represented in this redesign. Thank you.
Just to answer your question, Eric. So Eric, I did speak with the MTA about College Point, and they are looking at this. I've also reached out to the bus drivers union. So ATU 1056 spoke with them. They're very concerned because the Q27 is a Queens Village bus route from on a QE depot that would be going to College Point. So obviously that doesn't make any sense. So, some of the suggestions about having a bus going from College Point to Flushing and then having like a limited route like the Q65 currently does. They're thinking about keeping that at this point, but we're just going to keep on the MTA to make sure that they follow through with this. And we'll be coming back to College Point at some point, probably in August, to do another meeting.
Thank you, Charlton.
Charles, this is
Okay.
Charles. Can I add something also? Because there is a little bit of everyone's getting a little confused. It's also called the rush bus. That's somewhat is like a limited, but just to remind everyone, there is a discussion because there is also a Q26. What they're trying to do is, and I have brought this up to the redesign, and Charles, you can vouch because I did say this. The rush bus we've asked them to extend it. So therefore, people who want to go to Queens Village to connect to the Long Island Railroad, that's another way of helping the Q27 because the ridership on the Q27 is too great and it's way too high. You can't even get on a decent empty bus. You have to pray to get one. So
right, but we're talking about the other end of College Point because they have nothing out there. It's they're cut off from everything over there, and they need.
I'm aware of that too. And there's supposed to be, and I did mention this also at the redesign, that we also need express bus to terminate there as one. Second, we do need the buses. There's too many buses turning in Flushing. We need some to go to College Point so people can go to that shopping area as well as the community who lives there can get onto a decent bus to connect not just the railroad but the subways as well.
Right. Vittorio, since we're on College Point, and I'm sorry, I know Jack, I'm so sorry, Jack. Vittorio, did you want to jump in on College Point or he left? Okay, he left. All right. So yeah, let's take it away, Jack. Sorry about that.
No problem. Oh yeah, Vittorio is here.
My battery is going down here, so I won't try to conserve. What was your question, Charlton, regarding College Point or comment?
So yeah, I just want to say I'm sorry, everyone. I just want, since we're on College Point, Vittorio. So the College Point, the fact that the express buses are ending over there at the service road and not going into the other end of it. Can you just comment on that? By the Q65 and by the police, all the way up by the police academy over there by the Copenhagen Institute.
Yeah, well, the main comment that I heard, I was one of the folks that spoke at the College Point meeting, but there was also a meeting that I spoke at that was just for the express buses in Whitestone, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. It seems that one of the main concerns for folks that live in College Point is that their access to the express buses comes via the local bus, and they are concerned about losing access or being cut off to be able to transfer to the express bus, be it at Linden Place or wherever they normally get it at. And I think that is something that has to be explored to ensure that connection is kept. If they can't have an express bus, or at least some trips go directly into College Point, then we must make sure that the local buses that serve stops like Linden Place, where the QM2 and QM20 pick up at, we want to make sure that we maintain those connections so that they have access to the express bus there, because the proposal for the QM2 is for it to basically stay on the Whitestone Expressway service road, then go into Whitestone and continue east into Northeast Queens. And that is something that may concern some people, because they where it is more accessible, I say, on weekends, and this has been something that they were trying to do for more ridership purposes, was having it run along Parsons Boulevard on weekends and not on the service road as it does, is something that, you know, may concern some people as well. So those are sort of the two things. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about any sort of express bus being directed into College Point, by the way. So that's something that I know I have heard people perhaps wanting. I don't know how much that would come into fruition, to be honest with you, and if there is enough demand for it. So I think really what the focus should be on is, if that can't come to fruition, we need to make sure that we keep the local bus connection transfer to the express bus.
Okay, so you know what? I'll speak to the Civic. Eric, I'll be in communication with you, because I know you guys had spoken to me, and many of the residents had asked me about, you know, maybe having a AM or a PM express, like maybe 4 buses diverting to end where the 65 ends. But yeah, definitely, Eric, and I'll get back to the College Point Civic, and we'll find out about that. We'll inquire about that. And Vittorio, definitely, we'll all be in communication together, because Vittorio handles the express buses. We handle all the locals.
Yeah, and I'm happy if that's something that the Civic wants to discuss further. I'm happy to jump in on a meeting with that and
Yes.
see, you know, what time periods they want to look at for that. And if it's going to save time over having to transfer and over at Linden Place, that could be something that perhaps the MTA should look at, and I'm happy to advocate for it.
Yep. Thank you, Vittorio, and thank you, Eric.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Jonathan.
Jennifer.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker is Jennifer Shannon, followed by Yuki Endo.
Hi, Charlton. I just want to echo what everybody else is saying. Thank you so much for all your effort and all the work you're putting into this. Greatly, greatly appreciated. As I think Vittorio just said, or I think it was you, Charlton, we are like a transportation desert in College Point. We're at the end of the planet. Unless you're coming into College Point, usually people aren't coming our way unless they're going to our shopping center, which could definitely be impacted by this. And you have people that are coming into work, people, you know, that need to just go shop there from other parts of the community. A lot of the concern that people in our Civic have brought up is the combining of many of the buses. They're happy with what we have, and we feel that it works. If anything, we need more of those buses because it's very crowded all the time. And, you know, sometimes 2 or 3 buses go by, you can't even get on them because they're so crowded. So I don't know, I guess that's all I really wanted to say. You know, it's stuff that comes up at our meeting. It came up at our last Civic meeting, actually. So I just wanted to share that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I did speak with the MTA about that, because when I was on the 65, I did the 65 trip a few times. That bus was packed. And, you know, it's crazy the way the 65 operates, because it unloads people that are going from Jamaica to Flushing, and then then more people come on at Flushing. It's like a whole new crop of people come on going to College Point. And that bus was packed all the way till it made the turn. So you all, the Q27 that they're talking about is not going to work. That's going to be a disaster for College Point. If anything, that's going to make it even worse.
And we don't have a high school in College Point. So all of our kids have to leave. And even our middle school kids, we only have one middle school, and our elementary schools are jammed packed. And these kids all have to get on a bus to go to school. So it's definitely going to impact our children.
That's a very good point. And if
Mhm.
we know the MT is listening in on this meeting, that's a point that needs to be taken. There was another question about the police academy members, because do they get on the bus when their class is dismissed?
Some of them do. Basically, they were when the academy opened they were promoted to take public transportation, and the only way they can use the parking lot at the police academy is if they carpool. So if they come by themselves in a car, they have to park on the street, which definitely impacts the community as well. That's a whole nother issue. But so I'm sure some of them do use the bus. I'm sure. I mean, I couldn't give you numbers on that, but I'm sure definitely.
Yeah, so I think, Vittorio, we also need to reach out to the NYPD to find out how many of the officers are using the bus, because that academy holds thousands of cops. I mean, it's
So
huge.
Elizabeth, who's also from a Better College Point Civic Association, she is texting me right now, and she does say she sees a lot of them on the bus all the time. Loads. That's actually the word she's using. So yes, they are using the bus.
Okay, so we will definitely get back to you on that. I'm going to find out what the boarding guidelines, how many people are coming on, how many police officers are coming on at that
Charles,
stop.
this is Chris. The answer to your question, that ridership you're talking about, the Q65 going to where not into College Point bound, it's up to the max you can hold on the bus in there is almost 70, the max. And let me tell you, and I can tell you either way with my own sleep, because when I did pass seeing this issue, because this has been brought up about the Q65 and a lot of the redesign. The problem is the Q65 doesn't have enough frequency, and the problem is it does go near the Flushing Hospital, which is another one. Second, nice to know the Q25 has a limited and a Q34. What they needed done was the Q65 is another linked bus, but it needs to be brought to more frequently or start a longer bus. So we need to make that very clear, because there is an ADA issue on that line. Because the last person who used that bus was someone I know who uses a walker. She will never get on the Q65 because she said it's a suicide mission. And the Asian community has complained about this line to John Liu. Charles?
Sorry, guys. Sorry. So we've
Charlton,
been.
I'm gonna send you my information. I'm from a Better College Point, so if you could just keep me in the loop when you're planning meetings, and I'll definitely assist you with that as well. I'm the president for a Better College Point Civic Association, so I'll send you my info if you could just keep me in the loop of when you're coming here and what your plans are.
Yeah, because we actually wanted to do a bus ride out there. So to be fair to everyone in the community that's listening on the Zoom meeting, we are planning to visit Astoria. We're planning to do a bus ride there. We're planning to do a ride in College Point with the 25, the Q20A. So we're planning to visit that. Some of my members have done that already, but I haven't been on the 20 that deep into College Point. So that's something we are going to do. And definitely join our Facebook page so you can DM me there as well.
I already joined.
Okay, got you. We got you. Okay, are we ready to go to our next member? I'm sorry, Jack.
No problem at all. This is great. We do have one more registered speaker on the list. Again, although I might change this up, given how many participants we have. Without objection, if this makes it easier, Charlton, what we will do is after Yuki, if he's here, after he speaks, we'll open it up to everyone in the Zoom meeting. They'll raise their hands, we call on them, start the timer, and we just go from there. Charlton, does that work for you? Charlton, you there?
Sorry, guys, I forgot to hit the unmute button. Definitely, we want everyone to speak. So yeah, after Yuki, we can let people in.
Absolutely, and we'll still have the same 2-minute time limit. All right, up next is Yuki Endo, followed by opening up the floor. Okie doke. We will now open up the floor to all remaining attendees who have not spoken yet. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to open it up to everyone, but those who have not spoken yet, and please make it clear that you haven't, you'll get the full 2 minutes. And then everyone who has spoken will get 1 minute to continue. So please raise your hand by using the raise hand function, and we will go first come, first serve. All right, great. Our next speaker is Danny Nankumar.
Yes, good night, everybody. Good night to Charlton. Good night to Matt Kemper. I'm going to talk about the Q30 as not very good to see the Q30 being eliminated because I go to college in wintertime. I drive, but wintertime I can't really drive because I have a vehicle. So it's very hard to see the Q30 eliminated. Also, the Q17. The Q17 has a lot of ridership. It's very sad to see that's becoming eliminated or changed. I think it's going to become changed. So that's a lot of ridership that's going down. It's not pretty good. Also, I'm going to be talking about the concept of the Queens bus redesign. So removal of bus stops is not good because we're talking about ADA accessibility here. So that is what the MTA wants. So if you're removing bus stops, right, you're actually take away ADA accessibility from senior citizens who are like handicapped or use wheelchairs and stuff like that. Also, speaking about bus lanes, I actually noticed I've seen them is not actually making buses faster, making buses slow because cars usually go there to double park or they usually wait, drop off people, stuff like that. There's no enforcement, although there's camera, but there's no cops enforcing over there. Also, I live by Hillside, so hopefully any bus stops doesn't get a change over there, any route limits. So that's all I have to say tonight. I want to thank everybody for having me on tonight, and that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will. I know that Frederick Wells has not spoken yet, so we're going to give those who have not spoken priority. Our next speaker is Frederick Wells.
Hey, good evening, folks. My name is Frederick. I'm gonna speak about the proposed Q25 and the 78. The proposed Q25 is supposed to come down to my area, Queens, like terminating Springfield Garden. I think that should be extended further to Green Acres rather than the 86 Rush. And primary for this reason, that 25 is a frequent route, and the current Q5 to Green Acres actually runs better than the proposed Q86. So I think the 25 should be the one that goes to Green Acres. Also, I think the 78 should be a bit more frequent and should extend to the Bronx. I would think the 26 should be extended further down Springfield to end in Merrick Boulevard. Also, in regards to like the Q44 needs to be a bit more frequent, that because it's going to Fordham Plaza, you're gonna be having Metro North on that end in the Bronx and Long Island Railroad on the Queens end. That's going to be a heavy demand route. It should be every 4 minutes. And of course, my area of Queens, you need to have more bus routes connecting with the A train in Ozone Park. This way, we can connect directly with Brooklyn areas like Sunset Park, things like that, without the long meandering through Manhattan, as we currently have. And also, like some of the routes on Merrick Boulevard, okay, we understand it's like the main Phoenix to the QBL, the Queens Boulevard line. I'm gonna wrap it up. I mean, we need a little more distinction. Like as far as the 85 is concerned, like that like you had a QT18, the 85 should be merged into the 76. So like those riders can be fed into the Hillside Avenue subway, and then it just continue up Francis Lewis, because Francis Lewis need more frequent service. And I say bring back that old QT73 proposal. I'm gonna end right here.
Thank you.
You have a lot of good ideas. And one of the things I was going to make a suggestion on is, we need a bus route that goes from Green Acres that goes down to like Queens Village, LIRR. A lot of people have requested that because you can't really rely on the N1. So,
yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Elizabeth Cuccia.
Okay. Hi, this is Elizabeth. I'm basically going to reiterate something Jennifer Shannon said. Jennifer Shannon mentioned that basically about the academy students on the bus. We were not talking about the 65. It was on the Q25 that there are loads and loads of academy students on the bus. However, the other thing I wanted to mention is that the following stops on the proposed Q17 should be reinstated. The southbound stops Linden Place, Whitestone Expressway to transfer to the proposed 25 because it's quite a walk to get to the proposed Q25 from that area where the 17 lets you off. Linden Place, 32nd Avenue, there is a proposed Q20 transfer point at that stop. Some people will need to transfer to the proposed Q20 are zoned junior high school 185 students and school staff at junior high school 185 and PS 21. On the proposed Q17 route, the nearest stop would be the Main Street Northern Boulevard stop, causing commuters to have to transfer to the proposed Q25 to backtrack to Linden Place for a quarter of a mile, which means 2 transfers, 3 buses, likely 2 fares and a transfer, and extra time waiting for buses in the transfer process. The Linden Place 32nd Avenue stop is only a little bit more of a block walk to Whitestone Expressway Plaza, Stop and Shop, Wendy's, McDonald's, etc. And PS 242, one of the only 2 District 25 early childhood center schools. Access to those are important to the College Point community. Linden Place, 35th Avenue, proximity to Flushing High School, Veritas Academy, Flushing High School of Language Studies, and Queens Academy High School. College Point has no high schools. Franklin, Casino Boulevard, proximity to PS 244, Tails, District 25, Early Childhood Center, proximity to many doctor's offices. There are no doctor's offices.
Please conclude your remarks.
Okay, there's no doctor's offices in College Point. And Casino Boulevard, 45th Avenue, proximity to East West School of International Studies. And there's a whole bunch of other stops on that route that need to be reinstated because they're close to schools and close to things that people need to get to. We will not be able to get to those stops anymore because it doesn't stop until Queens College.
So I think what we need to do is, at Passengers United, and I'm sure Vittorio, if he agrees with me on this, maybe Vittorio, you need to survey the express bus distances, and I need to come out there and look at where in the plan the new local bus stops and the way the routing is going to be. Because you're just telling me with the 25 that a lot of people are using from the police academy, but then also, with the high school students, with the whole bus changes now, that means they're going to have to pay 2 fares, which, that's hard for a family on a budget. We definitely need that 3rd transfer in the state legislature passed. I think Call was the one who reminded me about that bill in the state legislature that did not pass, where for $275 you would get a third, you'd be able to use a 3rd bus on a paper ride Metro card or Omni card. So I think if what's his name is still on the call, Christopher,
I'm here.
I think
I'm
that's
here.
something we need to bring up to the Permanent Citizens Advisory Council and to Andrew
It's
and
been
the MP
brought,
board.
Charles, to answer your question, it's been brought up. But the problem, here's another question that somebody brought up about early intervention stops. There's some of them. That has been brought up, and I have brought this up because my other hat, as we deal with Brooklyn, I deal with the advisory council with children, people with disability, including early childhood. And a lot of those stops was brought up. If those stops are going to be discontinued, there is going to be a problem because those are early intervention children who have disability. Those stops are not going to be, if DOT follows those ADA regulations, they need to remember that it's in their document that, as I said this before, part of some of these sites, and I say day have programs, are in the category of early childhood programs when kids go in, or a day have program is part of that. If you know there are stops there, they need to have to keep those bus stops still in there. That's also, as I mentioned earlier today in the presentation, but that's also in the senior category, disability day have programs, and hospitals. So that is something that is been flagged as a definitely, they need to check. And schools, they're not discontinuing bus stops in front of schools. I want to make that very clear. Because
wait
as
a
we
minute,
said,
hold up. In
Oh,
the
yes, they are.
Bronx, they got rid of bus stops in front of schools in the Bronx.
Yes,
They
and I'm
very
aware of that, and it's already put it up. Charles, and just let me say what I'm trying to say. I'm glad you're saying that. You're correct about what you said in the Bronx. There wasn't supposed DOT was not supposed to do that, and they know better when they do that because there are some schools may have special ed students who need to go on those buses. So I am aware of that, and I had that meeting with DOT, and I mentioned this to Carmel, and I told them that some of the bus stops that has a front of a school, because students need to go on those special school shuttle buses that's supposed to be taking them to their destination.
People want to know who is Carmel, so can you please explain that?
Carmel Q is the accessibility chief of the MTA, which if you did hear from the MTA board or seen him on the news, he is the accessibility representative to the MTA. He deals with subways, buses, Long Island Railroad, and Metro North. And the team is called System-Wide Accessibility. As I said before, my title is ACTA. I come out of System-Wide Accessibility, but my title is ACTA. That is the new title since Andy Byford created, since he was the former president.
So the thing is, in College Point, the bus stops, they're horrible, the bus stops in College Point. I mean, you can trip and fall over there. And I think, as you know, we also need to talk to City Councilman, what's her name? Can someone help me out here? Vicky Palladino. And we need to consult with her on this because, this situation out there is really bad.
We need to get Donna Rodriguez, the new DOT commissioner, because to be honest with you, I've seen worse bus stops where there is a bus stop, but there's no sidewalk. So let's definitely remind you that let me make this very clear. We have told this to DOT. Talking to DOT is like talking to the window or to the floor, which they don't get their points. They say they're following the ADA regulation. I'm sorry, folks, but up to a point they do or they don't do. It's like you have to really get the elected officials representing you to get them to put it in a sidewalk for a bus stop, for any bus, from Accessoride to an MTA bus and express bus. And I see this.
Elizabeth. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I know we cut you off. Did you want to say something?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. All right. So I think we're good here. We got to move on to the next. Oh, Victoria, go ahead.
There's just a few things I wanted to say because my battery is running low. Talking about bus stops, there are at least 2 or 3 people that have concerns about the distance of the bus stops, which you brought up, particularly for the QM10. Those people that spoke tonight, I believe both of you are in my group, and I know there's a gentleman that is disabled who is very concerned about how he's going to be able to get to work if the QM10 is combined with the QM12. I want to let those people know, I think it would be a good idea if there are co-ops and those sorts of buildings nearby that some of you and I meet in person at some of these bus stops so that we get a sense of what it's like. And then we can sort of go with the MTA about it because you guys have been speaking about this for quite a while, and we need to come up with a plan to address this problem. Otherwise, it's going to happen. So I know it's Anita and Michelle, the 2 of you, and another gentleman that's in my group have been a number of times, and I want to meet with you guys at some point in the coming weeks to see what we can do about this at one of these bus stops, so I get an idea of the distance that you're talking about in terms of walking from where you currently get the bus now and what you would be up against. And then, I can sort of present it to the MTA, and I'm pretty good at that as you saw with the garbage situation, and maybe we can get some steam behind this. For the folks that are in College Point, the only issue that I see is really the transferring of the local bus to the express. I don't really see too much else that would be an issue. So I'm going to leave it there.
So for those of you, yeah, like Vittorio said, for those of you in Leaf Rock City, we did speak to the district leader out there, and he's trying to get us a space for the meeting. But what ended up happening was because of the elections and everything got complicated. But we are planning to do an in-person meeting there in Leaf Rock City for that area, for the Forest Hills area. And as soon as we get that space, we're also going to do a walkthrough of those bus stops that you guys mentioned with the QM10 and the QM11 with the Vittorio, of course.
Yeah.
And I actually agree with what he's saying also, because this is something I know that I think we both agree on, that if this is something that you guys have to do videos, pictures to prove it, and bring it as a document to the MTA board or their subcommittees, which they are meeting next month. So I encourage you guys to attend. And Vinny, I have to congratulate you on that stop in Manhattan, because a lot of the customers in that stop have complained about it, and they all told me to say thank you to you.
Yeah,
Yes.
no problem. I know I have a lot of commuters in my group, and I also worked with a number of the Staten Island Express Bus groups that have been wanting that stop to be addressed. I've had a number of discussions with the MTA about it. So it's the garbage situation is a mess, because that's where the building puts all of its garbage and recycling and everything else, and the restaurant as well, in that little space. This has been going on for quite a while now, and it's really a mess. So we're hoping we can get something done about it very soon.
All right, so let's, is there any other speakers who have their hands up?
Yes, there are. We have two more.
Okay, let's get them.
Okay, so up next we have Karina Nieves, followed by Maxine Laudner.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so I don't know what I was going to discuss, honestly. I'm actually trying to put in comments on the lovely Remix app, which is only accessible if you have a laptop computer, and it can't be an Apple computer, as Charlton, you said before. I don't know. I kind of feel like we're in a losing battle. I don't want to say we should, give up, but I don't know. I feel like, our council members are not really responding to anything. I mean, I don't know how we get more public pressure on them other than to, go to a community board meeting, which is now they're in hiatus until September. How are we going to get them to really care? I got someone from Schulman's office, which is nice, but what about the other 30, whatever? I don't know how many council members there are in Queens, but how many,
There are
how are we
52
gonna?
council members in New York City, 52.
50, I thought it was 51. Oh, we have 52 now. I mean, I don't know how many in Queens, but I feel like they're not really engaged with this process. Like we can't, I don't know. I feel like they're not just, I don't really hear anything coming out of their offices about their concerns. And if they were concerned about the bus, the draft, they should be holding their own meetings. And it's already been 2 months. So it's since March, 3 months. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like I really don't feel like they're on our side with this. And I don't know what else to say, but all I gotta say.
No, it's okay. It's all right. So, I just want to tell you, one, I've also had some arguments with elected officials about the way they're not responding, and with some of the staffers. And so, like, for instance, yesterday a meeting was held at the Hall of Science. Right, at the Hall of Science.
I was there.
Right. Hold on, let me speak. So at the Hall of Science, but the problem was hardly anyone knew about it, and it was announced to the last minute. Now imagine if we could have had our Zoom meeting and we could have turned that into an in-person meeting at that big facility. We could have had all the people there from Leaf Rock City, everyone there. It could have been a big meeting. But unfortunately, everyone's doing their own thing. And I'm noticing that. And then people told me at that meeting, they weren't really talking about the Queens bus redesign. They were talking about other things. So all I can tell you is the good news is the MTA has extended the Queens bus redesign process till August because they're taking in-person comments at certain places throughout Queens, and that's being done till August. So at least we have more time. So that's the good news. The bad news is, and Jack, I'm gonna have to say this here, and I'm sorry, guys, if I'm gonna say this, Jack, Matt, and everyone else, but certain elected officials are getting money from a street political action committee. And the problem with that is, when you're getting money from special interest, and many of these special interest groups, are wanting to, they're supporting other organizations that want to eliminate the bus stops, and they feel that that's the way to make buses faster. To me, that hurts the constituents they serve because they don't ride the elected officials don't ride the buses like we do. And so I've told the MT board, at the committee meetings, I said we need night owl bus service. We need more express bus service. And if anything, the frequencies need to be improved, not only for the express buses, but for the local buses, and you need a third transfer on one fare because that's how you.
Yeah, don't I want to add to what you're saying because I want to talk about how we can put pressure on the elected officials.
Well, that's what we've been doing. We're trying to put together a stakeholders meeting because I think the way you get to the elected officials is you have to talk to all the civic organizations. And to be honest with you, we've had some problems. We tried to do a meeting in Howard Beach, but the Civic Association didn't want to engage with us out there. And we would have loved to come out to Howard Beach. I just spoke to Paul Trust, and Paul said, he's going to we're going to try to put together a Zoom meeting there to try to see if we can get people out there to come out. But what we need to do is get all the civic associations together. I think we need to complain to the merchants, the civics, because a lot of the civics give money to the elected officials. And we also need to tie, I've already been in talks with the Queensborough President's office. But we definitely need to get everyone together, and we are working on that. Our last meeting that we had in College Point, I believe we got the attention of the MT. In fact, we did such a good job in College Point that at the last MT board meeting, which was yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw the letter that was released by two organizations now admitting that we need more frequency in buses and we need more bus routes. Isn't that a coincidence?
What I
Charles?
wanted to add, sorry, what I wanted to add to what you were talking about is what we did in the Bronx to stop the cuts to the express buses out there. We basically we had flyers circulated with all of the names of the elected officials for the different lines, and we had people call their elected officials and hound them, literally. And I think that's what needs to be done here in Queens. We have to have people not emailing, call your elected officials and call them and call them and call them and call them and call them. And that's what I did with my elected officials. And I forced them to have an emergency town hall meeting. You have to put the pressure on your elected officials. They are working for you, their constituents, and they need to know that. And that's what you need to do. That's how we were able to stop the express bus cuts in the Bronx. They have shelved them. They are not doing anything with the express buses in the Bronx precisely for this reason. And the folks that live in Queens, it's not enough to say that this is a bad thing. You need to understand that the people that you elect, they are working for you, and they are supposed to be working for you. And if they are not, then that's a problem. And you need to keep calling them and call them and call them and call them and let them know. And that's exactly what I did with my elected officials. And that's what we did across the borough. And that's what Queens needs to do. And that's the only way you're going to get their attention. Because listen, previously, all of the elected officials for the previous redesign were saying that it was a bad plan. Why was that? Because everyone was calling them. We were circulating flyers. Everybody was calling the elected officials complaining. And that's what you guys need to do now. It's not enough to just come to this meeting. You need to be calling your elected officials. Vicky Palladino, she needs to know that this plan doesn't work for her constituents in College Point and Whitestone and every other area that she represents, and so on. So that's my point, and that's what I wanted to say, because listen, it's not going to be easy, but it can be done. That's what I wanted to say for, and I'm going to leave my comments there for tonight.
So that Vittorio, I think that's a great idea. Jack and Matt, yeah. So Jack and Matt, I think what we also need to do is we need to hold a press conference, maybe outside each of these elected officials' offices. Like we need to hold like a rally, so we put pressure on them. And not only that, I think we need to do like a petition type of thing, where and also like a poster, you know, where
Absolutely.
we can put it on the buses saying, "Call your elected official. We have not heard from them, or they're ignoring us, and they're not responding to us, and they're not coming to our Zoom meetings." And I think that's the way you build political pressure on them.
Now, one thing I do want to say is one thing that an elected official mentioned to me is that the elected officials also want to remain on good terms with the MTA. That's very important because the MTA can also turn around and say, "Oh, if you're going to make this look bad, we're not going to give you X, Y, Z," and that could be part of the reason why they're not as vocal about this. And so if they have enough pressure from constituents saying this plan doesn't work for us, and they know that, they've got to do something about that. They can't just sit by and say, "Oh, this plan is fine." And so that's something else that I wanted to put out there as well. So there's that side of it that's an issue too.
And another side of it that's out there, and I'm going to be honest with everyone, I didn't want to take the meeting here, but I think I should say it. For those of you who are on our Facebook page, you already know. There's factions, there's groups out there who support this plan, who have criticized us at Passengers United, and many of these groups are getting funding from Uber and Lyft. Let's just call it for what it is. And so they basically, many of these groups don't even attend MT Board of Committee meetings. I think the first time we saw one of their reps was at the board meeting yesterday, and I was actually shocked. And so I also think we need to start showing up to the MT Board and Committee meetings each month. And you could do this virtually. You can submit comments as well. So you could do this live. And I think like Vittorio, when he spoke about the bus stop, that was really powerful yesterday. I love the way he did that. So I think if one or two of us do this, and there's also PCEC meetings where we can attend. But I think right now, we need to put pressure on the electeds and also our state elected officials. And this thing that Vittorio said about the MTA, showing favoritism to another area or cutting an elected official off because they spoke up about bus service. You know what? I'm sorry to say this, Chris, but no, the MTA, we pay our fares. We all ride the service, and we should get the service we deserve. So, for instance, in my community, they're consolidating 3 bus routes, the Q110, the Q36, and the Q112 into a route from Floral Park all the way to Ozone Park. And I've already told my elected officials it's not going to work. So I think we might have to start putting posters up, saying this elected official is refusing to answer our calls. We ride the buses and we can vote you out. I think we need to put that amount of pressure, like Vittorio's saying. And I think when we start doing that, the elected officials are going to wake up. Because right now, the elected officials are being fed information from another organization called RA. And RA, Jack, is it okay if I just say the name or?
I think, Charles, you want to be careful right now, but can I add my $1.50? Because I want to back you up on something you're saying is correct.
Yes.
I definitely agree with that. I agree with both of you all saying, because as I said this before, and I'm going to say this a million times, you should be going to your elected officials. But as I said before, it's not just city you need to go into. It's state up to the federal. Because,
that's correct.
As you said, Charles, you've gone to these officials. I'm going to use an example because there is an elected official that represents between Brooklyn and Queens. And I'm going to say this, when he or she sees me, he's going to go, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. And I'm like, yeah, because where is the bus for the community that needs an express bus that's in the border between Brooklyn and Queens? That's the BM5, you know what I'm talking about. That was supposed to be discussed to help the Spring Creek new housing development. That's something we've been asking for. But here's the thing also. The elected official realized he has not done anything, but I'm not saying their name because he's not actually in the elected official seat right now. But the bottom line is as I said again, I will say this 100 times. Column is number one. Two, the support letter should be sent to the elected officials, not one time, but a million times until they get it through their head.
Yes.
But go to their staff.
I
Well,
did. So, guys, I do want to say one thing. Congresswoman AOC had sent a rep to our meeting at College Point, and they've been in communication with me about the Jackson Heights, Astoria, and the Corona issues. That's the good news on that. We have a commitment. She's going to definitely help us with that. In fact, she wants to meet with us. So that's covered on that. And she's a federal official. We also did reach out to the state officials. I did reach out to Catalina Cruz and her deputy chief of staff, who's been very good with me. But the elected officials, unfortunately, we're having issues with, and I hate to throw anyone under the bus. Vicky Palladino's office has not been very responsive to us. And I told Vicky, even though everyone has cars over there, a lot of people use the bus.
especially in her district you're talking about?
Yes,
Charles?
but
Let's
also Leroy
remember-
Comrie. But also
Yeah.
Leroy Comrie in Southeast Queens. He doesn't he doesn't care about what's going
let's
on.
be careful what we're saying. I know you're ready to say it, Charles, but let me also
Yeah, we are
remind
live.
yeah, I know he's ready to say it. That thank you, Vin. But also we got to remind him also that some of these cars are blocking the bus stops. And I have to remind it, express stops, local stops, every bus stop, it's been blocked by those vehicles from Jamaica all the way up, even to Flushing, even Corona. Because let me make this clear. When I was heading to Jessica's meeting yesterday at the New York Hall of Science, I feel like I thought Brooklyn had worse problems. Queens is even 100 times getting worse.
Yes.
And why I'm saying that, because I have never seen so many double, triple parked cars. And I'm looking at these cars like, guys, move. You're blocking the bus. I want to get to what I want to get to. And it's a two-way
because
issue. And
there was a bill in the state legislature that would have given buses priority, if the bus was on the road. That means the bus would get to go first and a car would not be allowed to cut a bus off. That bill died in the state Senate.
Charles, we have one more person raising their hand, and I think your moderator is flashing something to you.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next speaker.
Let's hold that thought.
I like where this is going. We do have, yes, I was flashing that because we do have someone who's been patiently waiting. Up next, we have Maxine Laudner.
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. So I've been living on Ascot Avenue for 40 years, and I take the QM11, and I just want to verify that now the QM11 will become the QM7. Ascan will no longer be the first stop, but once downtown, we will still keep the westbound route to the World Trade Center. And the only question I have is, what's the first stop on the QM7?
Oh,
So
I have
yeah.
I can answer that question because that's come up a lot in my group. I run the Express Bus Advocacy group. So the QM7, the way that it's going to work, the way that it currently works is the QM7 starts in Fresh Meadows by 188th Street and Horace Harding Expressway or the LAE. It comes down 188th, it turns onto Union Turnpike, and it runs down Union Turnpike up to, I think it's Main Street, and then it goes into Manhattan. What the MTA is proposing is to have that line, which is the QM7, make more stops along Queens Boulevard and replace, or I guess you could say take over some of the QM11 stops along Queens Boulevard, which would then alleviate or address some of the meandering that the QM11 currently does through Forest Hills and into Rideau Park as well. And so that the idea is twofold. It would be to since the QM7 is relatively direct, the thinking is there are also some seats that could be filled on those buses. Though I don't know if that's the case, but the QM7 is already crowded enough as it is, generally speaking, but there's more riders that could use those buses. So that's part of it. Now, the other question was the routing in Manhattan. The routing in Manhattan would remain relatively the same, which is the downtown loop. I mean, coming along Water Street and coming up around Trinity in that area, and just serving the entire central business district downtown there. So that would pretty much stay the same. The other issue that you have to worry about is, as I've said before, longer wait times and less service. So while they're proposing to combine parts of the QM11 with the QM7, they would be doing so with less service, and that's something to think about because the QM7 is already crowded enough as it is. It's one of the few downtown routes for Northeast Queens that will also be running into along Queens Boulevard. And there are some concerns about that because a lot of the QM7 riders complain that the trip is already long enough. It's almost 2 hours one way. So the concern is that with having these stops along Queens Boulevard, the buses will be more crowded and you'll have a longer trip because of the commute as it is, but also because of the longer wait times. And that's in the morning and in the evening as well. So that is really the gist of those two lines right there.
Okay, no, I understand because when I did see the first draft that I guess was thrown away, I honestly said I'm going to retire from my job because it would have left me, I'm serious, it would have left me on Water Street or Gold Street. And I said, then there's no way I'm going to be able to make it to Seven World Trade. And I said, that's going to be my retirement.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
And yeah, that is, I think their thinking was with the conditions downtown was to try to make these routes more direct, but you're leaving people with no service in parts of the business district, which is the point of the express buses to begin with, is to serve the downtown and midtown central business districts where a lot of people work. So yeah, that's why they went back with what they originally proposed, because a lot of people were against it. It didn't make much sense, and you're not saving much time to begin with. So that's really what it's all about.
Right. And the only thing that we have that's not so great for the buses, which you know, is the bike lanes.
Yeah, I believe me, I do a lot of meetings sometimes for the city. With the type of business I'm in project management, so I have all sorts of meetings all over the city. Oftentimes I have to go and travel to Queens from my office in Midtown, and I take the express bus. And yes, the bike lanes have definitely slowed express bus service considerably along Queens Boulevard, unfortunately.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. And you answered all my questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
To say one other thing I wanted to bring up, speaking of the slow service along Queens Boulevard, is I have been hounding and asking about transit signal priority for the express buses. That's something that we've been asking for a number of years, which would help to alleviate some of the lights with the long wait times. None of the express buses have it. The MTA has been very slow to roll it out, even on the local buses. And it's something that is a collaborative project between the DOT and the MTA. I think if the controller is still on the line, if there's any way that could be looked at closer in terms of auditing it to see anything about it, to sort of expedite it, anything would be great, because that's just something that I feel like both of these groups have been sort of dragging their feet on, blaming one and the other, and nothing's getting done for the bus riders.
Wait. So, Vittorio, I actually, at the Bridges and Tunnels meeting for the MTE, I spoke to the vice president and I did talk to him about having HOV lane in both directions on the LIE that would go all the way up to Main Street. And that was something that they said that they would talk to New York State Department of Transportation on. So we did do the best we could on that. And we did speak to them about the delays on Queens Boulevard. Because I mean, you know, you're asking people to pay $6.75 for the express bus, but it feels like a local bus. You know, it's going so slow down. It's horrible. It drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts when I take the express bus.
Yeah, I agree.
Charles, Charles and Vinny, this is Chris. I did speak to State DOT. They were at the meeting yesterday, and I did ask them, when you guys are going to start an HOV lane, not even just the Main Street, but all the way into Nassau and Suffolk, and having little exits like around Main Street and Woodhaven, so the buses can go like that. Yeah, I thought I'd get you guys going on that one. And I gave them that information, but I didn't mention it at speaking about it because you got people, we're mentioning about the redesign. The one thing that I'm hearing from people talking about the redesign yesterday was that rumor that was going around, like from the previous one. They thought all the buses were being discontinued. I'm like, who told you that? And then finally they mentioned it was elected official, which I looked and said, since when that elected official ever said that? It's not even, and that person is not even an elected official for almost 5 years. So I'd like to know where they get their facts from. I thought they were like lost their mind somewhere.
But Chris, hold on. Yeah. But Chris, you need to understand, you know, we're all bus passengers. I mean, I know we attend these empty meetings and everything, but I always try to look at things at the passenger level. You know, we're paying for a service. We're paying almost over $1,000 now for the 30-day unlimited every month. And then, you know, all the other fees for the railroad and everything else. So, I mean, you know, we're fed up of the level of service we're getting. The bus service is horrible. And with this bus plan, the problem is with the express buses, a lot of the overnight frequencies, the late night frequencies is being eliminated. Right, Vittorio?
Well, actually what they have done with this plan is they are keeping the spans as is. What they aren't doing is keeping the frequency as is. So you're actually going to have the QM6, like for example, will continue to run until 12:30 at night to Lake Success Floral Park area. But you're not going to have the same frequency. You're going to be waiting a lot longer. So that is the one improvement of this plan, is that the spans on all of the lines, more or less, with some exceptions, will remain the same. Where they're going to be cutting that is really the off-peak service that I mentioned earlier, like the QM20, you know, not running in between after 10 a.m.
That's ridiculous. The QM20, you know, people need options because not everyone can afford a cab. And this is something I'm even been pushing for night owl bus service. I spoke about this at the MT meeting, and I told them that I'm not happy with the way the Queens bus redesign is going because, you know, we're a different borough. You know, we need local buses that are like limited super express buses that go from Far Rockaway to Astoria or Long Island Jewish to Far Rockaway, or we need a bus that goes from, you know, the Bronx all the way down to JFK. You know, they need to play around with it and really make this exciting. The way this thing has been rolled out, I'm not happy. Some communities are getting more bus service, some are not. And, you know, I feel like with the Jackson Heights area, they've listened to them. So now, you know, they're not as vocal as much, and many of them don't care. And it seems like the other parts of Queens now are struggling, like College Point, Queens Village, Hollis, Howard Beach. It seems like, you know, we're getting the brunt of it now. And Rosedale too. Rosedale too. Yep.
Charles, there is a question that was brought up in the chat. Just want to make it very clear.
Hold on a second, because we have more people to speak, Jack. I'm sorry.
I mean, so far that's it, unless anyone else wants to raise their hand. We can give them time.
Yuki Endo wants to go.
Yeah, he actually, well, I'm checking that.
That's what I was just going to say. He put it in the chat.
Yeah, he put it in the chat. He's not connected to audio, but he did put it in the chat if you want me to read that for you.
Yeah, let's read it. Poor Yuki, because he didn't get to...
All right, yeah, he did sign up too, but he wasn't in the Zoom call when he when it was his turn. So here it is. I'm just going to read this for you, and I'm not going to bother setting the timer. My name is Yuki Endo from Jackson Heights. I don't like the elimination of northbound Q49 bus stops at 74th Street and 37th Avenue, and the Q23 bus remaining to the regular route to Crescent Apartments via 108th Street to Crescent Apartment, then going to Fresh Meadows and 188th Street, so Q23 riders wouldn't lose Crescent Apartment, Ascan, and Austin Street service. I don't like the Q48 LaGuardia to Flushing relocated to replace the Glen Oak Q46 bus. Even though I support the Q50 LaGuardia Airport service, but heavy traffic, of course. I don't like the removal of the Q53 Select bus service at Woodside Station because it is very busy during the summer. I just went to Rockaway Park and there was no MTA ambassador on my way to catch the New York City ferry. I like the idea of the Q52 Select bus service extended to 74th Street, but should extend to Woodside to help the Q53 Select bus service. I don't like the idea of the Q29 being replaced by the Q21 because Cross Bay Woodhaven Boulevard is, I should know this, yes, I'm so sorry, my pronunciation is terrible today.
It's okay.
A lot of traffic, even with the busway or not. Continuing, I like the idea of the Q72 to QCM. Please remind me. Oh yeah, Queens Center Mall.
Queens Center Mall. I got you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Anyone, please. Yeah, I know. I've barely slept.
Okay, I got you, man.
There we
I know
go.
what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's talking about Queens Boulevard / Junction Boulevard needs to be the first stop. I
Yes,
don't like the idea that the Q58 local and the Q19 new bus using Roosevelt Avenue between College Point and 180th Street area. And that's all he said. The only thing I just wanted to make clear what Yukio was saying, and we discussed this, that one thing Yukio is it's not just the local, it's also the limit, but the Q58 where it's going, it's also helping the community, the low income community, to go from, when it's going from 111th Street, then make a right on to Roosevelt, because remember, there is no accessible train station until they get to Flushing. That has been an issue because the Q48 bus barely runs. You have to wait almost an hour, and there are communities even complaining. And I already had this meeting this morning with Frank, the bus division. I asked them of a full maximum investigation because 3 buses missing, even with a Met game or no Met game. So they have
guys,
to do something because.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. So we've been having issues with this new vice president, Frank. And I'm sure Vittorio can agree with me. He's not a very good public person. I feel like I get better traction from the other MT officials than him.
Right.
So that I also think that we need to start reaching out to the MT board now and asking for a leadership change with him. And maybe they need to put someone in there who can be more oriented towards the public and be ready to serve them. One thing with Greg Cipriano, he always smiled at you and he listened to what you had to say. This other Frank guy, he seems like lost in space. Like he doesn't care about, I've had experiences with him at the MT board meeting where he didn't even want to give me his business card. And I find that very, appalling. So I think it's 9:55. Is there anyone else who wants to make a comment or?
Yes, if you do, please raise your hand so we can call on you and start your time. But if no one else has any more remarks that they would like to make, is there anything else that you want to cover, Charlton?
Yes, I did want to say one thing to all of you. I just wanted to thank Jack Nyberg, Matt Camper, Andy Pollack, Vittorio Bugatti, Carmina, I wanted to thank both the College Point Civics, and just the whole community for putting your trust in us at Passengers United and believing in us. And obviously, I just finished 24 hours. So did my colleague, Christopher. He also did 24 hours for the election. So we're like a little tired, but we were so excited to do this meeting. And one thing I will say to everyone is there's other groups out there who are trying to dump this redesign plan on us, and we have to fight back. So Passengers United, we're grassroots. We don't get any corporate money or anything like that. And we need to speak up. We need to organize. We need to be vocal. We need to confront our elected officials and get in their faces and make sure that our concerns are heard. That's what I need to say. So again, and we need to confront some of these other groups and tell them, listen, if you're coming into our neighborhoods, don't dictate what we need. Talk to us and work with us. And I've been very vocal, as some of you know, about that. Because look at the Bronx bus redesign. Many of the business owners or people are saying they didn't know about it. Something is wrong with that. And that says that the community boards and the electeds were not communicating out there. So I think Queens needs to learn from the mistakes of the Bronx bus redesign, and we need to get our act together. There were some cuts made in the Bronx. Like the BX15 was shortened, and they created the M125. But the problem is, if you ride the bus at night, now you have to pay 2 fares to go from Manhattan to the Bronx if you need a third bus. So that's what I'm saying. So I think in Queens, I think it's so important that we push the electeds to pass legislation to add a third transfer. And then the second part of the legislation is, like Vittorio said, to add traffic signal priority to the express buses and the local buses so that the lights turn green when they get to an intersection. And then the other law is to make sure that a car cannot block a bus that's going down a roadway. Buses should get the same priority like police get or EMS or firefighters get. And I think once we start changing that culture, the bus service is going to be much better. And also backdoor boarding. With Omni, which has already been installed, we should be able to use an Omni card at the back door. That's going to speed up buses, especially with the local buses. So we try to cover as much as we could tonight. Things we jumped around a little bit, but we wanted to make this a community meeting because this is about all of you and all of us working together. And if you have any express bus concerns, Vittorio covers the express buses, but Vittorio has agreed that if there's local bus issues or subway issues, that he would bring it to our attention as well. So, I'm just honored to work with all of you, and all I can say is good night. But if any of you want to jump in to say, closing remarks, please do.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about everything that we've mentioned. I know that we also mentioned, I think at the previous meeting, that they were going to, and I think this has actually been confirmed, that they're going to be tearing down the terminal in Jamaica on 165th Street. And I mean, just looking at some of these new routings that they're going to be putting together in place of that central terminal that people have been relying on, not just to connect in Jamaica, but also to connect to Nice Bus. But I think it's really important to not only be attending these meetings like you did now. Give yourselves a huge round of applause. That was the first step. And but I think it's especially important not to just be attending these meetings and speaking up, but really speaking up pretty much everywhere you go about this. Make it known. So many people in Queens are well unaware that any of this is happening, and they take the buses every day. So make sure people know exactly what's going on, because this is affecting everyone. And they're going to be, they already did this in the Bronx, they plan to do it in Brooklyn, Manhattan, they already did Staten Island with the express buses. But I think it's especially more relevant in Queens, considering that the majority of the bus routes do not run parallel to a subway route like they do in Manhattan. Which, I don't even know what they're going to do in Manhattan. The problem is, it's a different situation, and I know I'm going on, I know I have to get back home too, but I know it's a different situation in Manhattan because many of these north-south bus routes, and I'm not talking about the crosstown ones, I'm talking about the ones that go north-south parallel to subway routes, is that making it a so-called rush route will really just negatively impact the entire community, especially those who really need the buses. And I take the buses quite often.
Something went wrong. Please try.
Wonder who that was. But yeah, it would just be a disaster to really get rid of that spacing and replace all. I mean, I'm not sure what they have in store for Manhattan, but if they get rid of stops, if they try to space them out even more, that's basically defeating the purpose, because then they're just making it another subway route, kind of. Given that, like, I know, let's take the M104, for example. I know I'm rambling on. That route on Broadway and 7th Avenue runs right above the 1 train. People take that route to have greater mobility, especially given that so many stops on the 1 line are not wheelchair accessible. And just eliminating so many stops in between the subway stops that are already not that accessible would just be defeating the purpose of this entire redesign. So, I mean, that's just one of many examples. It's really important to really make this plan known to everyone. They don't advertise it as much. The majority of people on the buses, when they have those new displays, the announcement displays that they have just started to put in their buses that not only show like the next stops or something like that, but also advertising on the other side of it. And they've been advertising the Queens Bus Network redesign. But the problem is so many people just ignore those displays.
Right, exactly.
And we really have to go ahead and push it. We really have to go out of our way to let people know that this is happening and this is how it's going to affect them.
Jack, you've raised a very good point. It's something I forgot to cover. So guys, with the Bronx bus redesign, the posters were on the buses. People knew there were meetings. In Queens, hardly anyone's been paying attention to this because only us as advocates and, the civics and those who are engaged are talking. But what about these people, who really depend on the buses? They're really in for double jeopardy when they lose their bus routes. So I think, like Vittorio said, and like all of you had suggested tonight, we need to have an aggressive campaign. And the sad part is, the other organizations out there have millions of dollars. We are grassroots. And what we've been able to pull off is just amazing. This is actually going to be our 3rd meeting that we've had. We were actually, our 4th meeting. We already had 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is our 4th meeting we've had on the Queens Bus redesign. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm proud of all of you that have come on. But we need to look at the bigger issues. The bus terminals being eliminated. Routes are getting longer, not shorter. Bus stops are being eliminated. So there's a lot at stake here. So I think the way we can, improve communication is if you ride the bus, make an announcement. And that goes to volunteers. Jack, did you want to talk about Volunteers for Passengers United?
Yes, I mean, that is definitely something we absolutely need. And I'm just one of several volunteers. We've almost achieved our nonprofit status, but at this point, everyone's volunteering to really get this organization going. So, and we need more people, and that's one thing that we really need to be emphasizing, as with many of these other transit advocacy groups and organizations, is really campaigning, advertising, and recruiting more volunteers. And we do have our website that is coming together, but I think the first place that I would go if you're interested in signing up or learning more about Passengers United is on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com. I'll put this in the chat, /groups/Passengers United. Yes, it is a Facebook group. So I'm going to put this in the chat right now, and I implore you all to join us and really accelerate this movement. But also, we have our Twitter page for Passengers United. We have Instagram now. We finally got that going, and we're also on YouTube as well. And we're in the process of really revitalizing everything to really make sure that we're getting the audience that we really need to make a difference and really get this organization going as well. So
Chris wants to make a closing note as well.
yeah,
John.
definitely. But yeah, I'm just letting you know that we are on social media, so please check us out as well.
Yeah,
Take it away, Chris.
I want to add one thing right now. As you know, since I deal with a lot of accessibility, I've been on a lot of these transit committees with accessibility for a long time. The one thing that, and I know I said this earlier, and I'm very clear to everyone, you want your buses to run. You want your accessibility train stations to be on. The one thing I said yesterday for Senator Jessica, to everyone, put your support letters at what you want, not just the MTA, but to your city, state, and federal elected officials, because sooner or later it will happen. And as you know, we've done the settlement. The last station of the Q100 stations is Hunter College, which is going to be built as we speak. We are getting other elevators being added in. But I remind everyone, the support letters to these elected officials, as Charles said earlier, we voted them in. They must do the dance and keep advocating for seniors and people with disabilities. And it's not just elevators. We need to make sure ramps are added in. If it's necessary, that station could be built as a ramp. We need to remind that stations are there for a reason. Lighting, like street lighting, it's DOT. Bus shelters is DOT. But let's also remember, some bus doesn't have a sidewalk. That's something we need to let the elected officials know as well. But with Queens Redesign, we need to make sure that the Queens Redesign buses, as is a draft, and I will say this word, a draft, we need to make it very clear that these buses are connecting to another line and to accessible train stations. As they're going to be adding into the train stations in Queens, we need to make sure they're connecting to where they have to go, from malls to hospitals to the Mets Willis Point Mets Stadium, which is the Mets, to other shopping areas, and to hospitals and doctors' appointments, including day have programs and senior centers. So I encourage everyone to please make sure you put these support letters out. And as Charles said, please attend the subcommittee board meetings. You can do it virtual or in person, as well as the MTA board meeting. They are meeting next month. Please try to attend. And remind you, they do give you 2 minutes to speak. You can read up your testimony and make sure they are reading it. And I hope to see everyone as we celebrate also the 8832. We need to remind our elected officials that the American Disability Act, it's going to be celebrating its 32nd anniversary on July 26th, but July 1st, it starts it up all the way to the end of the month. So please, everyone, support the 8832 American Disability Act anniversary of the 32nd anniversary. So thank you. And I know I see Dave is raising his hand. Or I should say, the mysterious passenger.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing. I'm probably repeating myself, going off of what you said. is that Passengers United can only do so much alone. It's one thing to join us. It's another thing to be attending our meetings and all this. But it's really up to all of us, myself included, everyone here, to really take it on, take everything that we are doing here, and really doing all the work. I mean, I know I'm not as coherent as I would like to be, but it's really up to all of us to really make the change that we want to see. And definitely send out those letters, attend the MTA board and committee meetings. I think I can say at this point that attending the Queens Bus redesign meetings, this one and or the one College Point, was kind of good training for what you would expect at the MTA board and committee meetings. It's kind of the same stuff. They have a section at the very beginning of their meetings. They have their section for public comments. Make sure you know that you're able to register and register on time. The way that it works for the committee meetings is they have a set time period of I think around like 15 or 20 minutes before the meeting where you can register to speak.
20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes before the meeting, and it closes 5 minutes before they actually start, presumably on the dot. But make sure you have that ready. You know what you're going to be saying, because I mean, they only do this once a month, and they only give you 2 minutes, just like we've been doing here. So, so take this practice. You kind of know what to expect with those. I really encourage all of you to really make your voice heard in every way possible, but also to really go out and put the work in, because it really takes all of us.
I did want to add in James from the controller's office to close us out. James, is there anything that you learned from this meeting? And is it possible we can have a meeting with the controller? Because we've been trying to get a meeting. I don't know if James is there or...
He's here, yeah. I just asked him to
okay.
How do I lower my hand? There we go. James, are you there?
Yes, I'm here now. Sorry.
Awesome, no problem.
What was?
So
Sorry.
James, I just wanted you to, because we wanted to meet with the controller to discuss all these concerns. I think, we've had 4 meetings now. This is our 4th meeting on the Queens Bus redesign. So, I think everyone's getting a little worn down because they just feel like we're not making headway. And I feel like, we're competing with all these big organizations with the money and everything. I think it would be nice if we could sit down and talk to the controller, or his chief of staff, and just, express our concerns. So if you can get us a meeting, that would be great.
I can put in a request for a meeting. If you want to send me something to my email.
A letter, yes.
Sorry?
So it would be like a joint letter, and Vittorio, me, and, some of the members from the civics could come out there and we could just talk to the controller. I think from like Eric, Elizabeth, Jennifer, all of us, and Maria, all the advocates. So we can come out there and have a nice, meaningful conversation and make sure we get these points. Because, one thing we didn't discuss tonight, we discussed it, I think, in the second meeting, was many of these bus routes are run, the city of New York pays this MTA to run the service under the MTA bus company. So the city of New York really does have a say in this. And the fact that the city council didn't even vote to start the MTA bus company many, many years ago, like 15, 20 years ago, is an issue.
Yeah. I mean, these are important points, as we've spoken about before. If you can send me whatever information you have, or, your organization's point of view on the issues, that would be helpful to us, and whatever documentation that you've been mentioning to me for a while that you have, send me anything that you have like that. And if you can just send an email, just really with a specific request, I can submit that request. I can't guarantee that this is a meeting that will be taken, especially given the fact that, as I mentioned before, we don't have a point person yet. For the transit issues, but I can certainly put a request in. There's been other transit projects who have requested meetings as well. QNS Rail, Queens Link as well. We have not taken those meetings because
Wow.
don't yet have we don't have the staff member in place since Adam Foreman left to take a different job at the mayor's office. So you can put in the request, and I can send it to the people who are in charge of setting those meetings, and I can explain why you want this meeting. I can take it from there, but I can't, obviously I can't guarantee that this meeting will be taken. There's also not there's no specific deadline or timeline according to our conversations, with the MTA, that there's not like a set time where afterwards there's not going to be any adjustments. The MTA we've spoken to their reps at the office, and they've assured us that there are going to be more meetings coming up, which I know many of you already know. I think Vittorio already mentioned it towards the opening. So we're aware of that issue, and we're also aware of the bus shelter issue too. We've spoken with DOT reps about that, about the contract, about the inability of them to place any shelters in the near future because of certain limitations they have. So we are aware of the main issues, but and like I said, I can put in the request, but if you could send me something formally to my email, like as descriptive as possible, from you, not just me explaining what you want, but if it's from you, it'll be more meaningful and it'll be easier to.
Of course, no, we will send you all that stuff, and I just wanted to thank you for James. James has been he's a great role model in the community.
Hey, man,
he's
fuck
been attending. Whoa, what was that?
Interesting.
Oh my, yeah, that's crazy. Somebody tried to hijack our meeting. Whoa. Sorry about that, guys.
Well,
I
thank
do
you for
apologize.
the words there.
Yeah, but James, he's just been a absolute role model to all of us. He's always attended all of our meetings. We're just grateful to have you, James. Can someone mute him, please? Yeah, it's that Michael Hassan guy. That's the guy. He just came in out of nowhere and hijacked the meeting. Ridiculous. Sorry about this, guys. But definitely we'll get that letter to you, James. And yep, we'll do that.
All right, perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
He was just removed from the meeting. Just want to let you know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think if no one else wants to speak, Vittorio, I think you closed out, right? Okay.
Danny, did we get you yet?
Oh, Danny wanted to go, yeah.
Yeah, you did get me, but I wanted to mention another point. Are any other bus routes in the Hillside Avenue going to be in the quarter going to be removed or changed?
Well, one of the things that I told the MT last week was, why is it they have all the buses going down Hillside and they don't have buses going down Jamaica to go to 179th Street subway? That makes no sense. Everything is clogged up on Hillside Avenue. It's like, what's the thinking behind that? You'd think they would have more buses going down Jamaica, but it is what it is.
Also, I'm very concerned about the Q30 and Q17. That's what I'm very concerned about too.
Oh yeah, I mean they're really messing up 188th Street.
I think,
especially given that before 2010, when they had these severe budget, when they had the severe budget crisis that led to them getting rid of the V&W trains, they also made severe changes to the bus network, including there used to be a Q75 bus that would run between, I think it was somewhere in Jamaica alongside the 17. They would go down Hillside, go on 188th, but make a turn on 73rd Avenue and terminate somewhere around the Fresh Meadows area. But what they're doing this time, they're going to be bringing back kind of a worse version of the Q75, because what they're doing is they're going to have the Q17 terminate at Union Turnpike and 188th, which I know that intersection very well. Nothing happens over there. It's all pretty much just like the one break from all these rows of houses that you see on 188th Street and pretty much everywhere else in the area. This is all like Fresh Meadows, Jamaica Estates. But the Q75 would pretty much be running until I think it's the whole shopping center around the Horace Harding Expressway. But the way that they're splitting these routes, I know that they're extending it to College Point on the north end. But why Union Turnpike? And why make it so much more complicated for people between Union Turnpike and Hillside Avenue to just get up to the Horace Harding? Why make that a two bus route, and then to realize that it's going to result in severe delays, because I'm not sure if both of those bus routes will stay in Jamaica Depot, or one of them is going to be going to Queens Village, but if you know what happened with the when they split the M5 back in 2017, they created the M55. The M5 retained its depot in Manhattanville, but the M55 was assigned to Michael J. Quill, and because Manhattanville had so many more buses than Michael J. Quill, it was an absolute mess when I was taking the bus down there, because they had so many buses on the M5, but then like 3 or 4 buses, and this was on a midday of the weekday. Maybe like 3 or 4 buses in total, not just in each direction, in total on the route. Wow. And I was tracking them live on the map on the M55. And I really worry that it's gonna kind of have a very similar effect.
Also another question. The Q27s, any updates on that? Is this still gonna be running from Hillside, by the 7-Eleven and Hillside and Springfield Boulevard?
So to answer your question, Jack, if I can, the 78 is going to be going up from Camera Heights all the way down. I'm sorry, from Springfield Gardens by JFK Airport. The 78 will go all the way up, and it's going to go all the way up to Bayside. And then there's going to be another route. I think the 27 is going to start closer to Glen Oaks over there, closer to where the 75 was. And then it's going to come up, it's going to go down, Springfield Boulevard all the way to College Point.
Okay, cool. And I'm also the guy who came on just now, I think that's Andy Quinto, whatever his name is.
Yeah, let's not get into that. Yeah, we're just trying to finish the meeting. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure who that was, because I saw a completely different name over there, but I'm not exactly sure who that was.
Yeah. So guys, I think it's getting late. Everyone's tired. We've been here since 7:30. But I think this was a very productive meeting, because now we have a plan of action which we've discussed, and I think now we know all of our stakeholders and organizers know what we have to do now. So that's what we're going to do. And I think Elizabeth was making a point in the chat, which is, the Q17 is equally ridiculous for those in College Point. I agree with you. That is a big issue. So there was a board and committee meeting. We were there on Monday and Wednesday. And like I said before, I'm trying to get a meeting with Richie Davis. I'm in communication with him. So that's the good news. Most of the days I'm in communication with MT officials. And what's nice about our new colleague, Christopher, Christopher is on the New York City Transit Riders Council. So he also has access to a lot of them as well. And he can also get our concerns addressed in a faster manner as well. So that is the great thing. So we are, trying to get people in our group on the leadership level that can be more, what's the word I want to say? More
Active?
direct, more direct in our strategy in terms of addressing certain issues. So that's the goal. So I just want to thank Jack Nyberg. Oh, thank you so much. I want to thank Matt Camper, all of you for attending tonight. And we look forward to doing another meeting in either Leaf Rock City or Rego Park or even Lindenwood, hopefully coming soon. So if anyone knows of a facility or a place where we can do a meeting, please let us know and we'll be more than happy to come out. Again, guys, it's 10:26 p.m. Matt Camper, thank you so much.
10:25.
10:25. And yep, we're done for the night, guys. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night, guys. Good night, Jennifer.
Good night, man.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
Charlton, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I was just thinking, like when you were talking about like Howard Beach wouldn't let you have a meeting. So there was a woman who spoke during the meeting who appeared to be from that area. Have you tried to like reach out to people that are from that area that are coming?
We
to your
did. We actually did. One of our Facebook members spoke to the head, and the head of the civic association there in Lindenwood, where the Q41 ends. He actually sent me a message saying that if we're not the MTA, they didn't want to do business. They didn't even want to have a meeting with, engage in any meetings with us.
Wow. That's something else. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's unfortunate. But, one of our members who used to be a New York City Transit Regional Director, Alan, he actually did attend our meetings. So this is the fourth meeting we've had. The first and second meeting that we had, we were able to get memorandum of understanding between the city of New York and the MTA from 2004, and we got the legal agreement. I haven't released it to people yet. Only the union has it, and a few people have it. But we think now is the time to release it because we're not making. I feel like we could be making better headway. So, now we're pushing it out because the other groups are trying to basically come into Queens, tell us what we need, and they're being very disrespectful to the residents. So, that's not going to happen. Yeah, we need to get that under control and fast.
All right.
Yep.
I was just thinking about it. All right. Well, have a good night. Thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah, and I'll definitely come out to College Point. I actually want to ride the 25, the Q20E. I want to spend a few hours out there,
Sure, yeah.
and then I'll meet up with you guys at a certain point where we can talk, and yeah, it would be great.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, have a good night. Thank you.
You too. Okay.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Jack, we're done.
Oh, are we still on?
I think we just ended.
We just ended.
Oh, sorry, Charlton. I want to make a quick point. I was looking at the draft plan, and for whatever reason, I'm noticing they want to dramatically change the Q8 bus route.
Right.
Is that after they get rid of the terminal?
Yeah, they don't want the Q8 running from Jamaica anymore.
Wow, that's something we'll have to bring up.
Yes, so I just wanted to quickly bring that up. So thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you very much for attending.
Yep. Okay. Matt, you can end the recording.
I'm going to end the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you so much again for attending. And stay vocal, stay active, and have a great night.